Friday out there, SMITE fans, and welcome in for another weekend of the SPL. Finch and Mifflin. Been a while since we've had this duo here on the screen. We're going to be bringing you all the action here today, at least for this very first set, helping you break down everything and get excited for these matches. And Miff, I know this is a weekend of top versus bottom. It certainly feels that way here with the standings, but I expect we'll certainly still be getting some exciting matches. To prove my point here, we got the Ghost and Renegades happening first thing here Friday. Then we don't have the Radiant Sanguine match. That one's obviously been postponed to later, but the Space Station Obey, the Space Station Renegades, it does feel a little bit like this could be a one-sided week, Miff. How do you feel about it?
I mean, you saw how I feel on the waiting room, man. I mean, the only game that I think there's any contention on is this Space Station Obey matchup. And you know what? I don't care what the chat's saying right now. I don't care what the casters are saying. Obey is on the up, and they're going to pull me ahead, skyrocket me through it. You think you're safe at 80%. You're not.
Listen, I gave you at least a little bit of credit. Let it be known that I did have at least a little bit of your back there on the waiting room. But Miff, you're down there near the bottom in the dregs with chat. Come on, you gotta want to climb out of there at some point, man. So we'll see if maybe you can turn things around in those a little bit later on. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit here about this first set, this Ghost Renegades. I mean, obviously, this is a big set here because Solar Troll now coming back to the team. Miff, we didn't get to hear your thoughts. You weren't on the waiting room, but how do you feel about them bringing SOT back onto the team in general?
I think that having benched SOT, Aggro brought it up that some other esports teams in other leagues in general will bench a player just temporarily to reset their mental. I think it's potentially one of the worst things you could do, right? Like, let's say that it really is just SOT wasn't feeling good about his own confidence. How is benching a man for 1 week going to improve his confidence? If anything, it makes me feel worse. It makes me think that SOT is on the chopping block, and if we do see permanent roster changes, he'll be the first one to go. I think that just bringing him back might have been a misplay.
Maybe so, and they're going to have their work cut out for them, aren't they, here up against Ghost. Now, Ghost have looked at least a twinge more mortal than usual, and I think that is at least some light in the darkness for the rest of the SPL, but it's a dim light. I mean, this Ghost team, week in and week out, look like the best of the best, at least for my money. The Panda Cat, Mike, Sam, and Final K are each ones I would blind to take without any hesitation in their role above just about everybody else. So Renegades certainly have an uphill battle here.
I mean, Gore said it as eloquently as I think anyone could. If you take Ghost to past 24 minutes, count it as a mental dub. Don't even aim for killing their Titan. Don't look for a W in the actual reality. Just go for these mental Ws. You got to move the goalpost a little bit when you're playing against a team that is as dominant as Ghost Gaming. But you're right to point out that they look a little bit more mortal. They're dropping a couple of maps, or maybe they're just not doing as well in the early game as we really expect of them. But up against the Renegades, I think Ghost is feeling confident. All the voters were feeling confident. Chat's feeling confident in this matchup. And I'm sure we're going to see exactly why once the game starts up.
Well, speaking of starting it up, let's start up the picks and bans here for game number 1. And that was something else we talked about here on the waiting room that I would have liked to get some input from you on, Mifflin, on some of these picks that are kind of rising up here just a little bit. Remember, the Kuzanwell pick has become a little bit more valuable here of late, the Cupid pick as well. I think we're still going to see a lot of those same normal bans here, Mifflin, but maybe some of those other ones are starting to sneak their way in.
I'm hoping so. I think, if anything, I think Cupid is undervalued already, considering how high up he's picked. He's getting first picked occasionally. This god brings everything that you need. He's a hunter, so he's going to deal a ton of auto attack damage. He's got the structure damage. He's got objective damage. But we sleep on it just a little bit. The additional attack speed that he gets from using his third ability, the out-of-combat healing around these objective dances, essentially creating a no-play zone, which is one of the most valuable things you can do in Smite. I'm looking at Sanctified Field. Fields of Love is right up there in that category. I think these are all tools that can completely control not only just one team fight, but potentially an entire game. One early Fields of Love around a Gold Fury fight can completely open up a match.
Well, this is a pick ban phase after your own heart here, Mifflin, because Thor finally getting some value, which I think he's justly earned, right? One of the best junglers out there that you can pick right now, alongside the Olarin, Nimbus, Yamoja, and Hercules. So these are fairly standard, I would say, but Renegades kind of get to decide where maybe the value will show up. And with this Hopwa ban, it looks like they're not going to step into this solo lane arms race. The Cthulhu and the Amaterasu are both available for those solo laners to try and pick from, so we'll see which ones Final K and Solar Troll end up prioritizing.
Well, I know that Fino K himself really enjoys playing Cthulhu. It really meshes well with his playstyle, but we can't sleep on Persephone. That damage output, the CC that she brings to a team fight, the ability to die and then still get more value than anyone else in your team. It's just something that's exclusive to her, and it's crazy to me that she makes it through the ban phase. Interesting to see that Renegades are instead going to prioritize that Hebo ban, likely targeting out the mid laner, could even be a flex ban towards the jungle. Ghost Gaming banning out that Thor. We know that Renegades aren't putting it in the jungle. They haven't done it yet. It's almost directly at Soul or a Troll. So a player that has been banned, or not banned, benched in the previous weeks, comes back and immediately gets one of his own gods banned off the table. Maybe that's an indictment of how valuable he really is to this team.
Oh, well, look at this Sobek pick being prioritized right at the top of the pick ban phase there, Mifflin. A little bit of a surprise to me, but this is something that Renegades have liked to pick alongside this Cupid. And I think both of them give them at least a little bit of slight flex potential. I think the Sobek more likely to be support maybe than anywhere else here on the map, and this Cupid gives him that same bit of flex. Talk about on Waiting Room. He could be your mid hunter for Ved, or you can go over into the long lane for Barrow. So they've got some options here for Renegades to start off with.
I really think it likely is going to be Cupid into the long lane, just because up against Persephone, Cupid is a god that's looking to fight in the early. He's got some of the best early pressure as far as player damage goes. Against Persephone, she's going to sit at her tower line and use Bone Rush and clear your entire wave. There's not really going to be that many opportunities for Cupid to get aggressive there. But if you are operating under the assumption that Sobek is going into the support role, that is the OG kill lane of Smite. Back in 2012, you can expect that every single ranked team, or at least one of them, was running this because of how much pressure it brings. Charge Prey into Heart Bomb, you might as well just be dead.
Well, it'll be the Kuzenbo coming in here next for Renegades. It'll be the double Guardian composition for them, and it looks like they're passing on this Amaterasu. So despite us kind of speaking about how strong this pick was on the Waiting Room, not quite reflected here on the SPL Ghost, have elected to take that Cthulhu, which very likely will be going over into the Soul, and then Renegades we'll see between the Sobek and this Kuzenbo, but probably lean a little bit towards the Sobek. So now here, we know exactly what it is that Ghosts are missing, right? They still need a support, they still need a jungler, whereas Renegades still need that jungler. I expect a lot of these assassins now to start getting removed here in this next ban phase.
And Renegades going ahead and targeting out some junglers themselves with that Robin ban. It's interesting to see. You don't normally want to target out exactly what you are missing. This is going to make Ghosts have a very easy time if they decide to just completely target out junglers themselves. I think it's going to remove a lot of the possible playfield for both teams, but if you're going to do an arms race, if you're going to try and remove as many resources as possible, I don't want to do that against Sam for Soccer, the guy who can play literally everything on the Assassin tab, the majority of the Warrior tab, and the Mage tab as well. I think if Renegades bans out junglers exclusively, as does Ghost, Ghost is just going to come out ahead.
I think so too, and remember, we've seen Erlong Shin look pretty good in the jungle in Sino's hands, haven't we? So with all of these assassins getting banned, the Robin, the Unbots, the Pele, the Kamazots, the Nemesis, the Thor, then I wouldn't be surprised if they do start looking a little bit more towards that Warrior tab, as you alluded, and perhaps picking up someone with some guaranteed early game pressure. But this is guaranteed early game pressure in a different way. The Ratatoskr being hovered here for Renegades, and we haven't seen quite as much Rat as I think we expected, considering some of those changes and how powerful his different acorns are, but looks like we'll be getting to see it in the hands of Lasbro.
Yeah, that global pressure is going to be so nice for his team, able to make up for a little bit of the lack of pressure that they're likely going to have in the Soul lane, whether or not it be Kuzenbo or Sobek. Just having to match up into that Cthulhu is not going to be easy. Now, if Rat's on the right side of the jungle or the left side of the jungle, the entirety of Ghost Gaming is going to have to be very wary. I mean, he walks through mid, all of a sudden now mid and whatever side he's on is under gank pressure. That global ultimate is so absolutely valuable. And with recent itemization changes, the new acorns, you can get the Acorn Blast Acorn to give yourself a couple extra shots, make it a lot easier to land that stun. Ratatoskr has become a much more consistent god in Phase 2.
Oh, so I did predict they'd want some early game pressure, but not the exact direction that either one of these junglers would go. So Ratatoskr over there for Lasbro and Sam for Soccer taking this Thanatos pick. I think they have picked this up at least once before, and Sam's the kind of guy that if you give him even a little bit of room, even a little bit of a lead, then he will absolutely run away with it, especially on a snowbally pick like this Thanatos.
It's so strong. If he gets a kill in the first 5 minutes, Sam for Soccer is going to control the next 30 minutes, and that's just facts, right? But this Morgan pick for the Renegades is a fantastic counter pick into Thanatos. If Morgan catches him in the mid game or late game, just in the jungle rotating, the stun, the second ability Dark Omen into an auto attack, likely with a Polynomicon on the build, might just be able to remove Thanatos or Persephone or even Rom from the game, immediately transform into Cthulhu. Now you're just a pillar of team fight pressure for the entirety of your team. This pick is pretty smart. I think Renegades have gone to the drawing board and come away with something pretty good here.
I think so too, and this is a potential chance for them to show us that little bit of a mental break, that getting SOT to take a seat, to maybe get everything back in order and make sure they're mental, most importantly, on track. Well, they're about to see a big test for that here, aren't they, Mifflin? Ghost versus Renegades, game number 1. I'll get it down to Gore and Aggro.
Well, thank you so much, Finch. That's right, it's me and Aggro down here. And Aggro, I mean, there's so many things I think to jump in on. But I want to say, contrary to what we were talking about on Waiting Room, you know, Solar Troll may be the big name coming back into this week. I've kind of got eyes on Lasbra and Vin right now as maybe being the staples for Renegades to pick things up.
You kind of have to, especially with this type of composition. And Morgan just commands so much respect for the enemy team and is going to be so versatile, and you've drafted a lot of really, really strong ultimates on both sides that she can utilize. I mean, turning into Persephone for that Grasp of Death is probably not that bad. You've got Hovering Death, you've got Through the Cosmos, these 2 semi-globals out of the junglers that are both fantastic, and then you've got this Cthulhu ultimate to bring you a team fight in a box, basically, in the draft. So I think Renegades have actually come away with a very strong draft. My only concern is that their damage is really sporadic and not easy to confirm. Morrigan is really all in. Cupid is pretty all in as well a lot of times. Ratatosker is as well. Not a lot of easily guaranteed poke damage that is going to guarantee you easy team fights. I think Ghosts have the poke advantage by a lot.
Well, I love what we're seeing here from Mike, and even the aggression from PandaCat, both of it working out well for them. But, you know, we've seen this start several times. A lot of these teams have been going purple, Alpha Harpy lane, especially if you think you're going to be losing pressure early, and we've already talked about how Rom can control a duo lane in the first couple of levels. And so what does Mike do? Says, all right, I know where the Renegades are going to go. Let's see if we can put some pressure over there. And already it started things up, but a good pluck, and Lasbra coming over. They want some blood to try and shut down Mike. They're going to get the body blocks and the last hit, which means they'll get the first blood. And going on to Bera makes it a little bit better for the duo lane.
So that start for PBM and PandaCat, very, very smart in order to get PandaCat level 2. Mike contests on the Alpha Harpy, and then they use the Rom level 2 power spike in order to be super aggressive. But there is a trade-off for that, and that's that PBM is going to stay level 1 a little bit longer. I'll bet you he was like 1 creep from level 2, and I do wonder if PandaCat just hitting the minions before running away in order to get Mike level 2 so we could get that underhand tactics jump in order to get away would have been enough. But either way, a very smart gank by the Renegades to get over there and make sure that they punish PBM for not having that leap level.
And even though we have 2 early game junglers in the game, I kind of would have thought Sam would have been the one maybe getting more aggressive as Thanatos early on. But I think good for Lasbra to be able to go ahead and put a stamp on this game. Right now he's looking to do it once again, coming over to the solo lane. Fine OKs at about 1/3 HP. Lasbra's just lurking in the jungle. Sam's completely back, so it would be a 2v1, and they wait for the jump to come through, and they catch the dash. Fine, okay, locked down, stunned down, and Lasbra going to be able to find his second, kill, I guess, overall. He got the assist on the first one, and now putting themselves up 2-0 here for the Renegades.
Stolen purple buff as well for Jake. It's all coming up Renegades through the first 2.5 minutes, it feels like, so far. That was a great push by Solar Troll to catch the dash there for Fine. Okay, Fine's dead either way, but that makes it an awful lot easier for Lasbra to get that kill. And the reason that we don't see a lot of other junglers go all the way to duo, then come back to solo, gank there, it's because they'd fall behind, or they would end up being out on the map for too long. They wouldn't be able to reset and buy their boots too, like Sam for Soccer has done. But that's an advantage that Ratatosker has over every other jungler besides Chang'e, I guess, if you can consider her one, that he can stay on the map and buy his acorn either way. So he doesn't have to go back to base in order to get back and be effective. He can just buy it on the map and then spend some time in solo lane waiting for that gank because there was nothing up on the map for him to take anyways. That was actually just the most efficient use of Lazarus' time. He's been playing great so far.
I think what I was just told was stop reporting your rats for no boots buying throughout their game. They're doing everything they can. That acorn is everything they need. And as of right now, it's working out for Lazbra pretty well, and maybe going what we've seen more likely, the stun acorn that has been coming through, making sure you throw out 5, still with 3 of them connecting, you get the stun, so it makes it a little easier. And it's helping slow down Sam for Soccer and Ghost as a whole. It's not something I expected to say coming into today, but if Renegades can kind of at least keep this pace up, it will make this a longer match, which, you know, at least for Ghost, isn't necessarily a death sentence, but it's a little unusual for them.
They tend to win pretty early, though. Don't forget, I mean, this is not a team that struggles in the late game by any means. You look back at those Phase 1 playoffs against Radiance where they were able to take the win. A lot of those games did end up going late, and Ghost was able to win a lot of those late games anyways, even though we think of Radiance as that really late game-centric squad. So I don't think it's fair to think of Ghost as a one-trick team. They have to win early. It just so happens that they do end up winning early a little bit more than some other teams. Want to take a look, by the way, what Venenu has bought in that mid lane. Doug pointed it out, and a good eye by him. Ven started purple boots. You can do this start where you just wait in base. You start with 1,500 gold. You wait for minions to spawn. By the time you get 50 gold just by existing on those passive gold gains, you're able to still make it to speed buff in order to help and make it to the mid lane as well.
All right, now Solar Troll in danger, much like FineOK was earlier, and there's the execute from Sam for Soccer. Part of the reason this Thanatos is so deadly. I expect to see him start impacting that now that he's hit level 5 more often. 1 kill pulled back for Ghost Gaming, and just staying alive in this. But you know, you were mentioning maybe somebody else at level 5 who's going to be very deadly, and that is Venenu, you know, getting that purple buff, but going for the Warrior's Blessing?
Exactly, Warrior's Blessing right afterwards. So you don't really have enough to get any sort of meaningful item by the time you run out of mana, because that start has no sort of mana sustain whatsoever. So instead he goes for the Warrior's Blessing, and this is just cheap, efficient stats for 700 gold, and it's the fastest blessing to stack out of any of the other ones. And I think that that's a big deal here. If you're not going to start your Mage's Blessing, it takes a while to stack that up. I mean, you look at Captain Twig, he's had it since the very beginning of the game. He's still only on 64 stacks. By going boots into Mage's Blessing, you kind of don't get that same amount of value, but Warriors lets Ven maybe survive slightly longer. That 25 true damage isn't absolutely nothing whenever you're hitting a tank, and a little bit of sustain from it as well. I think it's pretty interesting. Watch Ven's mana pool, though that won't be as much of a problem now he's picked up that Cursed Orb. That's the only thing that this build is really lacking, is that MP5. He should be fine at this point now, though, that he has the Tier 2 of Doom Orb.
Should give him some of that survivability to go in, although right here, not needing to go in at all. PBM 1 hit away should be confirmed here by Jake, but there's the Dragon form with the immunity frames just for a little bit longer. Lazbra up on the tree. Don't know that you need to be going through that. Actually, it's Venenu, of all people, jumping around on the tree. Lazbra still perfectly fine, and now making his rotation over towards FineOK. Seems to be a little aggressive. Full health, though, so difficult to burn down a Cthulhu here. 3v2. Now Lazbra does go up into the sky, looking for the knock-up onto somebody, and it seems like Sam might be the target. He's going to go up into the air. It looks like a retreat from him. FineOK too tanky. Now you've even got Twig coming into the fray. They're going to be able to get aggressive. There is the spin from Solar Troll, and they're going to be able to get the burn down onto the jungler. Sam for Soccer is taken down here. Lazbra in danger. Half health has been to try and peel for him, and that peel's going to be a lot. The damage coming in through Twig. He's 1 hit away, does go into that passive, and ends up trading it out with Lazbra. Now the chase down from Ghost Gaming is going to be there, but Twig's only here for so long, and FineOK only has so much damage. They're not going to be able to find anything after that. They do push the Renegades back, but ultimately the Renegades walk away with a couple of happy kills.
Just not a great decision by Ghost to re-engage. I think they could have easily gotten out of that fight as soon as Sam used that hovering death, but they decide to stay aggressive because PBM and Captain Twig are on the way, but Mike's coming all the way from base. He doesn't have his ult. Twig doesn't have his ult. Just not a great decision there from Ghost.
Well, now Barracuda doesn't have his ult as he uses that to get some aggression onto Mike. It just seems like the kill Mike show so far. I mean, they've found some isolation on FineOK, on Sam, even getting Twig in that last fight. But 0-2 for PBM, and that's even living through some engagements where he's maybe been in danger, much like that last one. It seems like the Renegades have isolated at least what they're afraid of on Ghost, and they're trying to lock it down. But honestly, as the game goes on, Mike will eat those deaths happily because the items will catch up and he'll still be tanky. It's going to be Sam or Fine-OK that I think are going to become maybe even bigger of a threat. And already, Fine-OK showing how hard it is to kill him in even a 3v2 and a 4v2.
That Gaia early on just gives him so much regen. It's pretty much impossible to kill this guy at this point. Once you get some anti-heal online, I imagine Lazra will be going for a Brawler's Beat Stick with that heavy mace that he's picked up. Then we're talking. But until that point, I think it's going to be pretty hard to bring down that Cthulhu. Interesting that Barra has gone the trans route, by the way. I think a lot of Cupids these days are going a little bit more traditional hunter build. Barracuda leaning more into that ability base, which is going to make it harder to kill this Cthulhu.
It's going to be interesting to see if that damage comes through in any pertinent way. Although right now it is the damage from the mid laners that's maybe doing a little bit more. Vin goes up into the skies, comes crashing down way too off the mark there to try and knock up Sam. I guess at that point you were committed, you're trying to go in, but now instead it's going to be Vin and crew that are in danger. Up into the skies, Lazbra and Sam looking to come crashing down into the fight. Lazbra's going to be met with half health, and Sam's looking to try and get the kill. He's low himself though, forced to fall back, but it doesn't matter. It's a double kill for Captain Twig, getting aggressive on the Persephone. Now Solar Troll maybe in the worst spot of all 4 members of Ghost on this side of the map. They're going to go ahead and leave him all alone. They're going to turn their eyes back towards their jungle.
Just a weird series of decisions there by Renegades. I mean, Ven makes a misplay. He thinks that he's going to get hard committed on a little bit more than Ghost was willing to do. So he insta-transforms, dashes away as Ratatosker, then realizes, oh man, I just got no value out of my Morrigan ultimate. That feels really bad. Let's try and make a play off of it. Ends up baiting himself, which then kind of requires Jake to jump in there and try and help him, which then means that Lazbra needs to come in and help Jake. And you know who lives throughout all that? Of course it's Venenu, because that's the way the world works. The person who kind of started the whole chain reaction doesn't feel the consequences nearly as much, but the rest of the Renegades really get punished off of his bad decision.
And it's so weird, we talked about a ton of different targets, and I guess Ratatosker was one of the ones that we had mentioned, especially for initiation on Renegades. It's great to have maybe Vin jump in, pull back, and then loop around with some stealth. But, in my mind, we were talking so much about Cthulhu, about this Thanatos. Every time I see Ratatosker, immediately my mind wants it to be Lazbra. So Venenu, at least throwing me for a loop with all of this. We'll have to see if he keeps that one up as the game goes on, though. And that's kind of where I think this pivot. Now we're 11 minutes in. I'm starting to think Gold Furies. When are they going to be coming up, and who's got maybe the best way to confirm that? And both Lazbra and Vin, when their ults are available, can get at least a little bit of extra vision by going up onto that tree branch and looking around to see if ghosts are in the neighborhood.
You've got a lot of options for scouting for Renegades, but I think that Ghosts have the better secure because Persephone just has the best secure whenever it comes to this match. You just lay down a couple of plants, they all get ready to go to that. You want to let them actually be tier 1 so that then you can burst them and they all gotta go off at the exact same time. If they're tier 3, sometimes the travel time of where the plants are and when they bite can kind of throw you off. But I still think that Ghost should have a pretty clear advantage on objective confirm and objective burn because of this Fafnir and Rom combo. Rom is just going to do so much more damage to objectives, especially with the build the Panda Cat is going in comparison to Barracuda's build. Barra, again, not going really auto-attack based, more ability based, which means he has to get a ton of value out of that Fields of Love every time.
All right, now PBM looked like he was in danger. Instead, now it looks like, honestly, Renegades might be in danger with everyone from Ghost that's over here. But it goes back to that conversation you were having earlier, or you were mentioning earlier, which really did come down to the fact that, Renegades have some sporadic damage at best, nothing really consistent. But if you look at Panda Cat alone, that's going to be a lot. Then you add in Twig, Fine-OK, what we've seen out of Sam, and it just seems like it's going to be more consistent late game than what the Renegades have. So maybe even more pressure, specifically for Barracuda, to be kind of on top of everything. But like you said, now especially with the Jotun's Wrath, feels completely ability-based. And so it might be a threat for them late game, especially when it comes down to boxing matches. Panda Cat's going to be felt on this ROM no matter what.
I just think ROM... I know we were talking about Cupid today on Waiting Room and whether or not he's undervalued. I think Rom is strictly the best hunter character you can pick right now. Nice speeds there from Twig. That's pure reaction time on the sound cue from Venenu, and Ven's certainly happy for that trade either way. But I just think Rom is the best hunter because he uses the best build better than anybody right now, which is Devos in the Ninja Tabby, into Chin Size, into Atalanta's Odysseus Bow Silver Branch. You have 2.5 attack speed. Your 2 becomes a power steroid, not an attack speed steroid. And you still hit for 1,000,000. You can use your 2 and then ult to get more damage on your ultimate, which makes you actually nearly one-shot people. It's just so versatile, and I'm surprised that Bera isn't going that build, because I do think that Cupid still uses that build very well, though not quite as well as Rom. He's just nuts right now. If you're not picking Rom, though I don't think that that's really the case. I've been playing a lot of ranked recently. I feel like I see a Rom in every single one of my games, but it's for good reason.
Well, now it's going to be fine, okay? Somebody else you've seen in most of your games. This Cthulhu, whether he's banned or picked, is going to be massive on the map. And right now it's just a lot of zoning. Solar Troll kind of drawing the short straw here for the Renegades. Locked down between 2, now 3 members of the Renegades. Luckily, he's a Guardian. He's living through that. Good pluck from Jake, but better beads from Sam. And now he's up into the air on this Thanatos, looking for the hovering death, and crashes down onto 3. A huge stun from the jungler as setup kills. Captain Twig picks up 1 off of that, and so far that's the only blood to be found. Jake finally bites off more than he can chew and is burned down for his trouble. Now that opens up Ghost to move, and with PBM Panda Cat, they're looking like they might want a Gold Fury.
Man, I was on the same page as the Renegades there. I thought, okay, Sam's going to hover there until someone's in execute range, and then he's coming down. And Sam goes, yeah, executes are great, but how about 3-man stuns? SOT nearly stealing that Gold Fury away from Ghost, but not quite enough damage to do so. Very, very close, though, for the Renegade solo laner. But Renegades now just get to... or Ghost rather, just kind of blowing the game wide open. A bunch of kills and a Gold Fury.
I mean, being able to find themselves now in a very comfortable lead, 5,000. And it seems like it was in the blink of an eye. I mean, out of nowhere, considering earlier we were talking about how well the Renegades were playing this early game. Vin looking to pull back at least a little bit in his favor, so he'll find something for himself. Forced into, well, his Ratatosk girl, which doesn't necessarily mean as much here. They don't look like they want to get aggressive. Jake's positioning screams aggression, but I think that's just true about Jake, period. So no matter what, it's looking good for Ghost Gaming. Renegades need to figure out how they want to re-engage. Although, like you said, you can't really count on Sam getting a 3-man hovering death stun every single time an engagement starts for Ghost.
No, but now that these fights are just going to get easier and easier for Ghost, look at the level disparities in a bunch of different lanes. I mean, you've got 2 levels in the jungle, 3 levels in support, which is just not ideal. Make that 3.5 as Mike dings over to level 13. Not only does he have both relics already, but Jake went binding into Thebes, I'm guessing. Mike went Thebes into binding, and Mike's already done stacking up that gauntlet of Thebes. So even once Jake catches up in actual itemization, it won't actually be that close because he's going to be missing all of those stacks. I know Jake has been around the map and making plays, but when you're individually down 1,400 gold and this many levels, it is very hard to make an impact.
That's what's devastating. Barracuda, Venenu, both of them doing well at keeping par. Solar Troll, Lasber, 1 level behind Fine OK and Sam for Soccer, but that 3-level discrepancy between supports, usually we don't talk maybe too much about it. Supports are usually going to fall behind. They're going to feel tanky anyway, but like you said, with that Thebes coming up just a little bit later, maybe it's going to cause some trouble over there for the Sobek. And now it's going to cause some trouble here for Barracuda. Just a huge scythe from Sam. Almost erases Barracuda on its own. Now he's looking for the execute. Going to be able to find that one, but this was the response from Renegades. Lasbra knocks him up under the tower, finds the kill in return. So 1 for 1. It feels like maybe favoring Renegades getting rid of Sam there.
Just not great relic usage there by Bera. He kind of eats the full duration of the silence and then hits Beads Aegis after he's already been scythed. You got to do it on reaction, which is not easy to do by any means, but once you've used both of those, you're pretty much dead. Sam resigns himself to the 1 for 1, but I agree with Sam's decision making that that's worth it because the Cupid's level 17, Sam only level 16. You're able to get Panda Cat a whole lot of solo farm. You're able to get some more pressure on this tier 1.
Well, now they're looking for pressure on a Fine OK. I feel like I shouldn't even mention that unless I see Fine OK below half health, because half the time he's not going to be in any true danger, and that seems to be the case right now, even though Renegades won it. But now we can maybe turn our eyes, we've been talking about Cupid a fair amount so far, even though he's not in the immediate fight that could happen on the screen. He's gone for that Atalanta's bow. Looks like he's going to start up some crit as well. So he really is playing into that hybrid role where, you know, he is very ability-based as well as attack-based. Do you like this feel from what Barracuda has picked up so far?
Yeah, I think he's going to go chin size here because you just kind of need it against Cthulhu. He gets all that bonus HP, and and he's got the Stone of Gaia. You have no anti-heal at all on your side for Renegades except for the Sickening Strike from Sobek, which is not always going to be applied to the Cthulhu. So I feel like you absolutely need chins here if you're Barra. I don't know if I love it. I just don't think that this is the best build path in Hunter right now. It feels really good to use because you've got 30% CDR, your heart bombs slam people, you're kind of, you spend the first half of the game ability-based with your first 3 items, that you're feeling really good because that's when your abilities are doing the most damage, and then the back half of your build is going to be more auto-attack based because that's when your auto-attacks end up being better. But I just don't know if I like splitting the difference.
Ooh. Well, Sam not going to be able to take off that time around. Tried to go up into the skies, but caught out before he could. Good damage from Vin and Lazber to be able to catch him out there. It's almost weird, though, going back to Cupid, and I didn't expect myself to be saying this today, but when you look at it statistically and who's played it the most, Wowie, I would say is maybe the best Cupid in the league as of right now. And maybe something that you should look at if you're going to pick him up, at least take him over to that duo lane, because it's been working out really well for Obey. We'll have to see, though, here for Barra, as he hasn't really been a huge part of these fights. We've seen some Fields of Love, forcing beads, forcing decisions out of Ghost, but nothing too crazy and nothing game-changing as of yet. Primal Fury just spawned up, though, which means there's something to fight over on this side of the map. It looks like Renegades are just going to go for it immediately. PBM's in the area, though, as well as Panda Cat, both waiting to try and burst down. They're going to be able to come through, and there is the grasp from Venadu, looking to lock him down. Primal Fury still a couple of hits away, and now the fight has completely broken apart. Ghost Gaming get the Fury, and now they're trying to get out with their lives. They lose Captain Twig. They want to find something in response. Venenu's incredibly low, but no one's going to be able to chase him down. Solar Troll's in execute range, but Sam's not going to be able to find him. Instead, going for the mid laner, they will be able to find the kill, so it's 1-for-1 in totality. Panda Cat way there in the back happens to find awesome Jake, and now Solar Troll just took the wrong couple of steps, diverts everyone from his team, but still 3 fall down for Renegades and the Fury, so Ghost Gaming find themselves even further ahead.
That fight just got so split there for Renegades. I mean, they got really, really separated as soon as they killed Twig. Final K was able to zone out Barra really, really effectively, make sure he didn't even get a chance to use that Fields of Love, and he might be trying to do so right now because he knows Panda Cat doesn't have any relics, but maybe too many people here. Maybe Barra's waiting until everybody backs.
And he got him perfect timing on that one. Will get the kill there, so at least pulling 1 back in retaliation. I mean, 2-1-1, if you can make plays like that, maybe not always on the back of losing 3 teammates, it's still going to be helpful. Lasbra cancels the back thanks to PBM jumping over the wall. It looks like he's going to be able to get out. Sam catches eyes on him. Actually might have seen the backing circle. No, he's not going to get aggressive here. Ghost seemed to be content with what they had there. Maybe not too happy with Panda Cat going down, but looking at the build for Panda Cat and the levels, he's not too stressed out right now. 4-1-3, he's having a solid game.
And he's got that Silver Branch now, so he's hit the point where he's got a ton of pen. He's going to do a bunch of damage. Still waiting on that Odysseus bow, most likely in that 6th slot, but I'll bet you he's pretty close to that 2.5 attack speed anyways.
Wow, well, Renegades started up the Fire Giant. It's at about 3/4 HP, but now they're getting aggressive. Twig is just deleted before the fight can truly start here. The Renegades isolate him. Now Fine-OK looking to be locked down. Lasbra going to be dashing in on him. It's going to be Vin diving into the back line onto Sam. They're trying to split this one up, and Solar Troll going to get the just perpetual knockup. Sam half health. Fine-OK deleted from the game as of now. Even though it took a lot of the Renegades to do it, Sam getting cut off in the pathing here. Vin looks like he should be able to find something. Up into the skies goes Sam for Soccer to dodge out the damage. In fact, maybe looking to follow up here. Goes in, finds the execute. Great shot from Panda Cat to set that one up. And now Sam looks to turn this one right on a dime as they get aggressive into the Renegades, looking to chase them down. SOT and Jake are too low to fight. This is where Cupid can come in handy. Those hearts heal a lot, but it's not going to be enough. Sam for Soccer looking to melt him down 1 by 1. Lasbra's behind him. Good pluck by Jake to make sure that this jungler has to slow down here. The Renegades bloodied, beaten, still falling down with Jake, and now it looks like SOT might go as well. But a good push against the wall. They save themselves as they take down Sam for Soccer. But it's still not stopping PandaCat and PBM, the dual lane from Ghost Gaming, not ready to give it up. In fact, Mike might be biting off more than he can chew this time around. Goes down, and is this going to be a throw of a fight? PandaCat looks to turn this around, but the ult from SOT going to get the knock up against the wall, and Lasbra comes crashing in. I mean, so many turns in that fight, I don't even know where to start.
Man, that was a long one. Take a breath there, Gormizer. That one took a while on both sides, but Ghost end up a little bit worse for wear because Renegades continue to keep this pace high. They get to pick on Sam for Soccer, they go straight to Gold Fury. Now they lose Gold Fury, but they get a pick towards the back end of the fight. They group up, they go straight for Fire Giant, and I've got a pretty good inkling of where they're going now that they've gotten those picks to end off that fight, right back towards the FG. Watch out though, not a lot of relics here available for Renegades this time around, and now Twig should have enough plants to have that res ready to go.
I threw out that ult already, locking down a little bit there, so Twig not going to be able to have that. Fine, okay, forcing the his ult as well. Low health bars once again on the sides of the Renegades. Barracuda looking to be the lowest, hovering death already activated for Sam. He just has to choose a target at this point if he can get there in time as to who he wants to execute. Not going to be able to get into the back line, but it doesn't matter. Venenu now trying to turn things around. Lasbra gets taken off screen, but Fine OK looks to be the one who's going to fall. No, Venenu can't quite seal the deal. So it's a 2 for none in favor of Ghost Gaming as Fine OK walks away, barely breathing, but still alive. And now this Dragon form, you had highlighted it earlier, going to come in handy between PBM and PandaCat. This Fire Giant doesn't have much of a prayer to stay alive, especially with a Frenzy coming through as well. This should be a secured Fire Giant for Ghost Gaming. It will be, and now, from the Renegades, I'm starting to feel a little scared.
I mean, it's been really scrappy. The fights have been close, but at the end of the day, even with the kills completely even, Ghost is still up 7k gold, and it's only getting bigger now that they're going to be able to get this grab this tier 2 and a right side Phoenix almost certainly. PBM no Frenzy will make this a little bit harder, but I still feel like Ghost should be pretty favored to grab this.
Oh geez, yeah, this Phoenix is getting eviscerated when it comes down to PandaCat's damage, but they're going to have to turn it elsewhere. Seems like not able to quite focus fully on this Phoenix. Still about to fall, but Sam has to trade his life out for it. Now they might lose a little bit more. PandaCat incredibly low. Fields of Love well placed by Barracuda, and that's going to be able to find PBM as well. That's a 3 for none so far. Fine OK in the middle of 5, going to get burned down before he can find a kill as well. Captain Twig, contrary to most of Ghost's fight, actually the last one standing for them. But it might not last too much longer. Lasbra wants something. The knock-up going to be good from Venenu, and that's going to be the burn down. Full-on deicide. Get rid of that Fire Giant buff and equal the playing field.
Don't think Renegades have an opportunity to counter-end here. There's just too many towers still on the map. Respawn timers aren't nearly long enough, but this should be a tier 2 and a Gold Fury for them on the back end. I was on Ghost's side there. I thought that they were going to be able to grab that Phoenix and get out safely, but the mobility of this Ratatosker, Lasbra's making a lot of problems for Ghost. Look at how much player damage he has, 10, 4, and 8. It's been a great game for him so far.
I mean, he's been stellar so far in the jungle, and you can't really glance at any of the carry slash lines that come to it. You know, the mid laner as well as Barracuda there, both of them 5, 3, and 4, 4, 1, and 4 respectively. So Vin and Barra having very good games behind it. Maybe not quite as good as Lasbra's, but a much cleaner engagement from all of them. If anyone's dying off, it will still be their tanks, but like you said, they get the Phoenix in mid, get a tier 1 over there in left, as well as this Primal Fury, so maybe not everything you would like in the terms of a push, but considering you lost Fire Giant right before you were able to get any of those objectives, you're counting your blessings with this one because you've just opened up a game state if you're Renegades.
You've got a win condition now, and that's if you win another team fight like you just did, you can run it down mid, and that Titan is open for the taking, even just 27 minutes in. With the way these fights have been going, Gore, it's certainly possible. These fights have all been pretty close. Ghost is gonna snag up that Primal Fury really quickly because Renegades had to reset, but feel like this is still a pretty good opportunity now for both teams in order to win a team fight convincingly. No relics at all for Captain Twig, so he's pretty vulnerable coming into this next fight. No Aegis for 45 for PandaCat. That could cause him some problems, and the relic situation on Renegades is looking a little bit better. Only 15 seconds for Venenu's beads to come back up.
Well, Lasbra wants to find Sam. It seems like the rest of the team does as well, but they're not going to quite be able to. And well, we were talking about it on Waiting Room. It's a question you asked me, and I didn't have the great example, but this is exactly what I meant when I said it. What could Renegades do this week to just kind of solidify if things are going well for them? This is a pretty good example when it comes down to it. I mean, they're up 5 kills, still down 4,000 gold, but they have a win condition, as you had highlighted. They're kind of dancing around Ghost, not even timidly. They just are waiting for that right moment to pluck, so it feels better for them as a team right now. And of course, if you missed out on Waiting Room, I don't know what you're doing. 30 minutes before SPL, you're just waiting for SPL. Come listen to us talk about the SPL, and then come watch the SPL. It's nothing but perfect timing for you.
I agree. That's where you should be. Mackenzie was featured on today's episode because she was sleeping on the bed in the background. That's always a big dub for everybody involved. I do think that the big thing for Renegades is that they've been playing assertively. That they've, gotten picks, been the first ones to objectives, even when they are down in gold. And that shows they are in it mentally still. They aren't rolling over. They aren't giving up. They're not just waiting for the game to come to them. They're forcing action on the map, and I just think that's the best way to be playing Smite. I just think that that's the way that every team should play, and so to see that from Renegades today has been good for them for sure.
And it carries on that conversation Finch kind of mentions, just how exactly they would be kind of mentally coming into this, and like you said, if they're still in it here 30 minutes in, then they're still in it to win it, as far as I'm concerned. SOT seemingly having a pretty solid game. The only person that seems to be falling behind, and it was just an early detriment for the Renegades, was Jake, but now there's only one way to go, and that's up for him, right? Everyone else hits 20. He's bound to do it eventually. So he's here at level 17, still about 2.5 levels behind PBM. But he did get those stacks fully topped off, as you had mentioned earlier, for the Thebes. So he's tanky enough to even sometimes miss a pluck and still be able to get out alive.
Especially with that Prid win now, I mean, that ultimate is going to help out a lot. See how much damage PCAT does, though. I mean, it doesn't take long for him to shred through those defenses. That's what this build does. I mean, it's just so much pen, so much attack speed, so much power, and then chin size passive. You're kind of slamming once you get to this point. Though seeing Barracuda's build in totality does make it make a little bit more sense to me, because now he's sitting at 40% pen. His first Heart Bomb, or if he leads on Fields of Love, that's going to have 60% pen with the Titan's Bane passive. That is actually pretty nuts. So if PBM transforms in a bad spot, you can use that Titan's Bane passive on Fields of Love right underneath him. You're going to do a lot of damage to that Fafnir pretty quickly. Still think that Panda Cat's build is a little bit better, but maybe on a god like Cupid, the way that Barracuda has kind of put it all together makes a little bit more sense.
Well, hey, 4-1-4. Again, he's been having a good game, so I'm not going to argue against it. At least not just yet. He's hanging out in the back line, waiting to see if maybe that Fields of Loves will come in handy. It's PBM or FineOK that I anticipate getting shredded by that penetration. They have a little bit of view of both. It's just that question of getting aggressive. I mean, Jake hasn't quite been able to find the pluck, and there's no real follow-up here from Renegades, as they're just patiently, and incredibly patiently, waiting for Ghost to make a mistake, which is not something that you think is going to happen too often. Maybe they can try to pick off Twig, but they have been getting to Panda Cat regular. I mean, he was 4-1-5, I believe, earlier, now 4-3-5. They've been able to deal with that ROM a little bit better, even if it costs them a lot of damage in return.
Both he and Barracuda are pretty close to each other on the damage charts right now. Fine's in a bit of trouble here, but he's Cthulhu, so trouble doesn't really exist for him. I forgot.
Well, Jake's still going to go into the ult, look for the slow. It's not going to be enough to find anything there. SOT's in the area to find a push, but he's actually going to use that dash as a disengage. And just like that, it's back to pretty much square zero. Jake's still at 3/4 health. FineOK is technically not full, which maybe is a small win for the Renegades. But as far as game state, nothing's changed. They're just farming up. Buffs have respawned for both sides at this point. So you're seeing a small disengage for a couple members. And with the way they're split up, aggro, there's not really potential for a lot of kills. So I like this. I like what Panda Cat's call is. Let's go try to take this Oni Fury. They're going to turn it into a fight on FineOK. But with Captain Twig over there as well, that Oni Fury is going to get a lot of needed pressure for Ghost to try and control this game. Lasbra gonna run in. He takes it away, trades his life for it in the process. But can they find something off the back? They get rid of Panda Cat. It all just drops at the just tip of a hat here, but that's going to be the crash in from Sam. Looks to try and break down Barra. He's one hit away. They'll be able to find it no problem. So far, 2 for 1. Vin about half health and in a precarious position with Twig still in the neighborhood. No ult available for the mid laner to try and lock this down. In fact, Vin wants to go back in. He's going to find the 2-man stun, finds the kill, loses his life in the process. 3 for 2 now as SOT looks to run away. Jake coming over to maybe try and save the day, but I think both of them need to get out of here. SOT won't be able to. So now it's just this lonely crocodile hanging out in the mid lane.
This is a kind of awkward position, though, now for Ghost, because you don't have Panda Cat. He's the one you need to do the most of your objectives. Sam will do pretty decent damage with the build that he has. Plenty of pen, hi-rez in tow, but is that really enough to do EFG? Probably not. I don't think Ghost is going to be able to get that much, at least initially. Panda Cat died first in the fight, which does mean that he's coming up first, which means I would expect Ghost is going to spread out a little bit, take down these Oni waves, and then regroup on EFG. But by the time they do that, Gora, I don't think they've got a real window. I mean, Panda Cat's not going to be there for another 7 seconds, then Venenu's up. He's got tons of movement speed. He should be able to get there pretty quickly. And Mike's in base, Sam's in left, so all that bloodshed for a whole lot of nothing, it feels like. Not quite nothing, because a lot of people are losing relics. No relics for Twig or for Ven or for Barracuda. That makes this next fight pretty risky for both sides.
Ult's coming back online for everybody, though, so maybe opening up the conversation of engage. Vin has been consistently turning into this Ratatosker, and so between him and Lasbra, especially in that last engagement where Lasbra dies for the Oni Fury, you still get that knock-up, still get the stun, still get the potential. And when he's 10, 5, and 9, again, Venenu maybe choosing the right target every single time he comes in as well. So they're being able to keep that pressure applied if you're the Renegades, although now they've lost that 5-kill lead. It's now only 3 kills that they come up. We'll have to see if they can maintain that. Look to get aggressive. Pyromancer started up by Ghost, but dropped almost immediately. SOT and Jake going to be going in, but it's going to be Venenu who ends up losing his life. Lasbra trades it out, so mid for jungle. Overall, Captain Twig looking to get melted down by Barra. Fields of Love going to pop, and it's going to pop that health bar just as quickly. Twig's out of the fight, but he still has his passive, so he'll be able to get some damage off in the meantime. Panda Cat in the backline taken down so far, 3 for 1 in favor of the Renegades. Jake at 1/4 HP, let's call it 1/3 as he heals up a little bit. Could have gone in for more, but I like the call. They fall back, they heal up, and Renegades, they're looking to push down mid. That Phoenix is weakened aggro. Could they actually win here?
I think they can. They've got a ton of damage, but they've got to juggle this Titan and Phoenix aggro properly. They've got to make sure that their tanks don't take too much damage.
Well, it's going to be careful for them. They get aggressive. Fine, okay, looking to separate Barracuda. Good target in all of them. 2-man knockup, but he's looking to get melted down. Still, it's taken way too long. Sam for Soccer, 10 seconds away from respawning as of right now. Fine, okay, almost, but not quite taken down. Knockup going to come through from Lasbra. At least they're going to control him and find that damage. Now with PBM looking to get eviscerated just thereafter. That Phoenix can't take any damage. They are diving deep on the right-hand side, but they're looking to get at least another kill out of it. Sam is back in the fray. They don't get rid of Michael. And now that's going to cause some trouble. And execute onto Lasbra means that Sam's back in this fight. Good silence to slow down Barra as well. Jake's just around the corner, but he's going to back off. SOT and Barra are hanging out here alone. It felt like they might have been able to get something on that, but it fell apart for them. They got the kills. Well, kill. They didn't quite get the Titan they wanted.
Not only did they not get a Titan there, Gore, but they didn't even get a Phoenix. Should have definitely looked at that Cthulhu ultimate timer. I wasn't even looking at what if that ultimate was available. I just kind of assumed it wasn't. With that ultimate, no chance for Renegades to really get anything. Fine just creates so much space, buys so much time. Don't really love the pluck there from Jake. He kind of plucked Mike back into the Phoenix that, as you mentioned, Renegades couldn't hit because that tier 2 tower is still standing. That made it a lot easier for Mike to ultimately get help. If you let Mike just kind of run through the jungle and seal his own fate, I think that's a little bit better for you.
Well, now they're trying to push him forward. The lockdown seems to be going on to Mike, but Barra's the one taking all the damage. Fields of Love looking to separate it, and will pop just in time to save his life away from Sam for Soccer. Jungle for no one on the side of the Renegades so far. And that's going to be the disengage from Ghost. A full minute without Sam as well. And Barra's just hanging out, healing up with that Aussie passive that's now available for him. Of course, his own little hearts to help him get towards the top as well. This is feeling good. The tides are shifting, and it seems like they're shifting red.
They are, so far. Every fight, the last, what, 3? I'd say have gone Renegades' way. The chase onto Final K and PBM kind of aside. Now Ghost have to really just take a legitimate 4-on-5 here around the Fire Giant.
Well, PBM has been the target every time. Knockup going to be good, and they're going deep into the back. Panda Cat is the one they want to burn down this time. And guess what? Where there's one jungler, there's another, and that's going to be Venenu this time, being able to find the kill onto Panda Cat. Captain Twig incredibly low. Double kill picked up for Venenu. Now it's the question of what they can find in return. Twig's still alive in this passive. Lasber needs to be able to survive through this one. And good juke so far. Keep him alive through all of that. And now the question is for FineOK. Can he play Distraction one more time for the Renegades? Will they focus on some sort of objective? Fire Giant available, Primal Fury available, Pyromancer available, Phoenix in mid lane exposed. Feels like the world is their oyster. It just depends on where they put their pressure.
Man, this composition from Renegades is just so obnoxious to deal with if you're a backliner. Both Twig and Panda Cat have to deal with not one Ratatosker that's diving them, but 2 Ratatoskers that will dive them, and a Kuzenbo, and a Sobek, and a Morrigan, who's going to try and find their way into the backline to stun you. It just feels impossible for Panda Cat to play the game, even with his relics. He actually ended up selling an item there. He sold his boots in order to pick up a Shogun's Kasari, just to give himself some survivability against the Kuzenbo in particular, which I think is pretty smart. Gives him some defense against the Morrigan at the same time. Like that pickup for him quite a bit. I just don't know if it's going to make the difference whenever it comes to this dive from Renegades. I just think they have too many tools in order to do it. It means that Sam needs to get more value than a 1-for-1, which is normally the jungler's job in the late game. Is you sacrifice yourself for the most important backliner on the enemy team. I wonder if that's got to change now with the way that Ghost Gaming's backline is being eliminated from these fights. You kind of have to rely on the front line from Ghost to do a little bit more.
And they seem to, at least on the side of Ghost there, think that Fire Giant wasn't worth the fight. And, well, with Panda Cat and Captain Twig, maybe a solid call for that one. But Fire Giant enhanced at this point, and that Pyromancer go towards Renegades. Primal Fury picked up there for Ghost. Next one up is going to be an Oni Fury, so maybe something to look at there. But that'll be at 44 minutes. That's a completely different conversation to have because there's so much that can change in the blink of an eye here. Tier 2 tower in right lane has disappeared for Ghost. Tier 2 in left lane is just a couple of hits away from, say, Barracuda being able to burn that one down. Middle Phoenix is weakened, right-hand Phoenix there for the Renegades is weakened. It feels like it really does come down to who is getting the better end of these trades. And all right, now it's been Renegades for the last 10-15 minutes. So if they can keep this pace up, we might be looking at them pushing Ghost at least against the wall, maybe to a Game 3, depending on how Game 2 goes. But as of right now, best way to start this week with their foot forward.
This siege is going to be difficult, though, for the Renegades, because all the things that I just highlighted, the multi-Ratatosker ultimates, the Morrigan dives, all of that becomes a lot harder when you're sieging a Phoenix, because there's not that room for you to maneuver. You've got to kind of make that room for yourself and understand that you've just got to dive. Morrigan, in particular, is really, really bad at doing the exact same thing she's been doing the whole game. Now, Ven's job is really to poke Phoenixes with that polyproc.
Well, he's instead going to go up onto his tree, look for the knockup. Panda Cat, though, gets off into the ults, and that's going to keep him alive at least for a little bit, but the damage still coming down onto Twig, and that's going to be Lasberta who finds the kill there, ends up trading out mid laner for mid laner, with Sam coming crashing down from that hovering death, but Panda Cat's one hit away from dead. Good pluck from Jake, but it might end up taking him away from the damage. Both tanks on the side of the Renegades gone, and now Lasberta trying to do his best. You get rid of the carries, but a triple kill for Sam for Soccer slows everything down from the Renegades. Now Barracuda left alive by himself to try and defend it all.
And with all this dive, that's kind of how these fights end up going for Renegades, is that Barracuda is completely alone, and he just has to win his one-on-one against FineOK, and winning in his scenario is often just living, which Barra has done very well. Only 2 deaths for him so far in this game. Twig has just got to find a way to find better ultimates, though, Gore. I mean, that ult, often Timbuktu wasn't really that close to hitting anybody in that scenario. I don't know if it's going to cost Renegades the game, that fight, as long as Barracuda is able to stay alive, and he still has that Fields of Love available.
Well, he's going to go ahead and throw that one out. Just trying to defend this Phoenix. He has 10 seconds left before anybody's available, and he's going to be able to get a kill on top of it. Loses his life, but does just enough. Might even save the Phoenix because of that. PBM, once again, barely walking away alive, but Barracuda, maybe not the most impressive save we've seen this year, but still impressive nonetheless in a 1v3. Manages to ward off Ghost 43 minutes in.
It was a great silence to actually catch Barra's dash. I thought that could have been disaster for Renegades, but that turnaround kill, Mantle proc continues to be the bane of so many different players' existence. The Mantle proc there opens him up in order to kill Sam for Soccer. Well done by Barracuda, and saving that Phoenix keeps the pressure on Ghost in this instance, because now Ghost are kind of back to square one right before that Phoenix siege, but now they already have a Phoenix lost. If they would have had mid-Phoenix opened up, it would have given them a real win condition, an easy path to victory. Now they've got to earn it a little bit more. And almost always that entails keeping Panda Cat alive.
And so far, again, I highlighted it earlier, it was 4-3 and 5. Now it's 4-7 and 10, so do the math at home. He's been able to get assists, but unfortunately Panda Cat has been kind of a primary target. Same thing there for Twig, as I kind of memed him a little bit earlier as someone who, I mean, more often than not for Ghost is kind of the primary target. It feels like everyone wants to get rid of that mid laner, and technically he has really great stats. I believe he's the only mid laner that's in the top 5 in the league in terms of kills, at least in Phase 2. So he puts his mark on the game, whether he's getting killed off or not.
That's kind of been the MO for him there. But like I said, I mean, those Grasp of Death just have to be better from him moving forward. That one on the left side, Phoenix, that fight was going pretty well, all things considered, for Ghost Gaming. I mean, Panda Cat got up into the sky, bought himself a whole lot of time. Twig was a little bit separated, but again, it's one Ratatoskr dunk and then dashes after you, then the other one dunks you after you've used your dash. It's pretty much impossible for you to live. And this is best case scenario for that style of composition if you're Twig, because you don't have to live to do your damage, to do your CC.
Yeah.
It's better if you're alive. You do way more damage, but this is as good of a pick as you could ever ask for against this style of composition. Twig's done a lot of player damage, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there's room for improvement on those ultimates.
You can see, I mean, how many times he's been in his passive, he's been a primary target. How many times Panda Cat has had to use his ult just defensively has made him a primary target. Like you said, that damage that is coming through, still solid for Twig. Imagine if that wasn't through the passive, right? I mean, he's skyrocketing to the top easily at that point. But it's still FineOK right now, who seems to kind of be the raid boss that you have to burn through. Everybody else on Ghost, maybe the ads, but you know, when the ads are almost as strong as the raid boss, you're starting to sweat a little bit if you're the Renegades. Now the question is, can they steal another Oni Fury? It's at 1/4 HP, and Ghost are just going to go ahead and let this one leash. There's Renegades coming up to try and pick it up. They're grouped up in a good position. It's just who can get the last hit. Renegades seal that one. And, well, there's that Persephone ult come ringing through, but not ringing true aggro, so maybe not what you wanted to see out of that. And Renegades now have the pressure in the lanes.
Not a lot of CDR there for Twig in the build either. Assume he's got a power pot ticking, so that would be 20% CDR in total between the Soul Gem 10% and the pot 10%. He actually doesn't have a power pot right now, so he's only got 10% CDR. It's going to be a while before that ultimate's back.
Not to see if that's going to make or break this game. So we see one comes crashing down. Lasbra looking into the back line, and once again, guess who? It's Panda Cat that's in trouble. Forced up into the air, and now Captain Twig, maybe their primary focus. Panda Cat comes down, but unfortunately he's going to have to watch as his mid laner gets burned. Panda Cat eliminated. Venenu ends up losing his life in the process, but it's the 2 carries for the 1 on the side of Renegades. They're happy with that trade. SOT 1 hit away, and Sam should and has no problem catching up to that one. Now it's just whether or not Barra can make it out alive. 1 Cupid at 1/3 HP against 2 tanks with Jake to try and peel. Doesn't seem too hopeful for him. FineOK is going to be able to find that one. Once again, just a skirmish where everyone dies, so nobody wins.
And luckily enough for Ghost, they're able to keep a member alive who could back in time to push out these Oni fire waves on the left-hand side. If it was just the 2 tanks, that would have been enough, I think, to open it up for Renegades to just walk in and take it anyways with how long it would have taken them to clear, but they've got enough wave clear on the left-hand side in order to keep those Oni fire waves at bay. Looks like they're going to need some help in mid for FineOK, and Sam I think Renegades were on a ward just based on the way he's playing. There is one on red buff. So Sam knows this is coming. Baited perfectly.
Oh,
or
man,
not.
The damage turnaround almost seemed like it was going to be enough. But Sam out of the game for 75 seconds. That's a long time to be sitting around doing nothing in Smite, and he's going to have to watch it all in black and white as well. So not going to be a comfortable wait period for him. And for another minute, a 4v5 effectively once Renegades respawn, maybe gives them a little bit of an edge. That Fire Giant still alive over there, and somebody fully got it during that last fight. And that's actually where I was going to maybe try to turn this conversation. Both of these teams are doing the most effective way to not lose, which is, you know, maybe you're not killing the tanks off so you can't win the fight, but you're getting rid of Panda Cat, you're getting rid of Twig, and depending on who is getting traded out for the Renegades, you're also losing Vera, Lasbra, or Vin, so no one is alive to take the objectives after the fights, and so it's almost coming out as a stalemate every time.
It's been damage dealers dead on both sides and a bunch of tanks just kind of staring at one another after the fact. Don't think there will be a contest from Ghost on this one. And Inu actually transforms into Rom to get as much DPS as he can on this FG. He's got not that much CDR, 20% if he's got a purple pot, or a red pot I guess, because purple pots are gone now. So that's going to be a little bit before that ultimate's back up. You know, a full minute that Renegades aren't at full power. They must have been very scared of a contest right there, but they had a good enough information, I think, that they could have probably held that.
I was gonna say, that's where we get the benefit of the all-seeing eye. We know there's no one in any hopes from Ghost trying to get in there. But I guess Renegades, again, like you said, maybe a little worried about it, at least enough that they're going to try to burn it down faster. Didn't even use the ult, which is typically something that you might see as maybe a secure there, maybe just trying to save it just in case, but overall nothing coming through. And we're getting to the late game. I mean, you had highlighted a little bit of protection items coming online. We've seen Panda Cat now has switched that to a Mantle of Discord, and so does Barracuda have that as well, but a couple of Hide of the Nemeans being picked up on the side of the Renegades, which, considering how often we see Panda Cat survive through all of this, seems to be working out pretty well for them.
Also, Sam, for soccer, it has that Hydra's Lament. You just block a Hydra's proc auto, you're talking 500, 600 damage that you just saved yourself. That's really, really strong. I like the pickup here for Ven. Don't love the Mirrodin pickup for Jake. I think Soul Reaver, or you don't have a Spear of the Magus on your team. Flat Pen is usually just a little bit better than Percent Pen against these squishies, but the squishies do have like Mantle, so I guess it's not too bad for him to go for the Mirrodin. Getting double pluck feels really good. Getting a second tail whip can feel pretty strong as well. Definitely like the passive on Sobek. Just a little surprised to not see something like what Mike has in that Spear of the Magus, which I think is just probably the most effective item you can go there.
Well, it's an 80% pickup rate here for Mantle of Discord. There's 8 of them in the game, so I'm sure it's happy, at least as an item, as to where it is standing. The question is whether or not we'll see it come to full utility. I mean, it might slow some people down, but right now it's the Renegades with an interesting kind of 3-1-1, now 2-2-1 split on these Phoenixes. Just trying to cause some trouble for Ghost. And once again, you look over towards the ults. If FineOK has his, then I'm leaning towards Ghost in terms of a Phoenix defense. We'll have to see if Renegades can do anything about it, as Bara has these minions coming up behind him, Fields of Love available, all that pin in the kit. They're going to be able to get aggressive over here. Good pluck, but better beads from Panda Cat. He's looking to burn down Jake, but PVM takes a lot of damage in the process. Going to be able to survive. And now Lasbra's up in the air. He's going to traverse the other side of the map, similar to what we've seen E-United do in the past. But he doesn't have any minions over here, so now he's just far away from his team with no way to join back in.
And Captain Twig once again tries to get a little bit cute with that ultimate and finds absolutely nothing for it. Barracuda able to just dash away pretty easily, hold all his relics. Couple ultimates down on both sides now, but Grass of Death is the best one on either side, so I feel like that's favoring the Renegades so far.
Now it's just up to how they can crack this shell. The base is difficult. FineOK is pretty far away at this point. Now that they see him on the minions, might be their key to go in, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They force the beads on Twig and Panda Cat. Lock down the Fields of Love, going to be able to find the kill before he can get it up into the sky. So that's going to be the burn down. Sam looking for a target to try and find. Not going to be able to find anybody, and Vin actually loses his life. He was that Thanatos. Sam finds exactly exactly who he wants in the process. Fine, okay, looking to chase down Barra, who's half health now, and that dash is only going to barely help him out. It's a 1-for-1 so far, but always favoring the defender here. They manage to keep up their Phoenixes right now. But Barra no longer has that Aussie, still has the ability to heal up, and it looks like they're going to be coming right back in. 2 tanks and a Twig. What can they do to defend? As of right now, it's enough to stall him out, but Jake and SOT want to continue going in. There's a Grasp of Death to lock down at least one. Jake taking a lot of damage in the process. Barra not able to find the Phoenix or a kill here, and ends up helping find a kill on the Twig. Is it going to cost them too much in the process? Fields of Love, back up, back down, back into finding a Mez, but not going to be able to find a kill again. Twig, though, is out of there. Now it's the question of whether they can continue locking it down. Good kill from Sam, the passive healing him up. He goes up and the execute ranges on 2. He's going to be able to find Barracuda, not quite able to burn down those tanks, and now SOT, Jake, they just want to get away.
Man, Sam's got to be careful here. He's dead to Jake's ultimate. Missed the scythe and ends up dying for it. That was quadra kill territory for Sam for Soccer, but a little bit wide on the death scythe. And that ends up spelling doom for him. And somehow, I don't think I've ever seen that, Gormizer. A full enhanced Fire Giant siege where every single lane is under duress and no Phoenix goes down on either end. And look, that fight starts as well as you could ever hope for the Renegades. You kill Panda Cat without him even getting into the air. Grasp of Death whiffs straight out of the window right off the beginning of that fight. And Renegades still cannot crack a Phoenix, even with all of that pressure. And I feel like Renegades should just be looking to spread Ghost Gaming out a little bit more and be a little bit more patient. Because you see Lasbra use that ultimate, then go right, and then as soon as Final K shows up, he's like, yeah, I don't really want to be here anymore. Don't worry about pushing the wave. You have Enhanced Fire Giant. You're a full damage rat. He's got a 3k pot now. If Renegades get another Enhanced Fire Giant, you will kill that Phoenix without minions way faster than anyone from Ghost can react. So don't let them know you're coming by pushing up the wave. Just go in and blink onto the Phoenix and backdoor it. And then if someone shows up, you just ult in order to get out. I feel like Renegades are playing a little bit too honestly. You know, Enhanced Fire Giant feels like cheating at times. You can let Solar Troll do significant damage to a Phoenix. Cheat, dude. Don't play fair. Don't be walking up with the wave. Hey, here I come. Just backdoor the Phoenix with your rat. You can do it easily.
Yeah. Play to win and use what you have available to you. Although I will admit, 55 minutes you don't typically get here, so maybe it's something they're having to kind of learn on the go here for them. Same thing for Ghost. Again, we kind of highlighted it way long ago in the before times, which was 30 plus minutes ago. They do tend to win pretty fast. I think they're in the top teams with average game time being the lowest. So they win often, they win quick. But as of right now, this is at least not one of them here. Good pluck onto PBM. Let's see if it can find anything from the Renegades. It's going to be half his health bar onto the tank for Ghost Gaming. And Jake is not quite done. Blinks forward, but not able to find the pluck. In fact, puts himself in danger. It's going to be the question of staying alive. Execute threshold has been met. It's whether or not Sam can get that dunk that he wants, or if he goes somewhere else, and it's elsewhere he chooses. Solar Troll going to be the target, but that ult going to be able to burn him away. Fine, okay, finds the last hit. And they get rid of that solo laner. Now it's whether or not they can continue chasing things down, or finally Ghost can get themselves on this Fire Giant list.
I think it should be a Fire Giant here for Ghost, but Renegade's actually still sticking around. Ven still has relics and his ult, and he's hunting.
Ult? That's the question, whether he can do anything with it. Turns into Cthulhu. We've seen this before as he's looking to try and make the tear. PBM goes down thanks to Barra. Him and Lasbra are looping around to help out Venenu, who is just doing his best Fine OK impression this time around. Panda Cat, one hit from dead. Barracuda, though, loses his life in the process. Venenu de-transforms, and now he's in danger. That stealth paying its weight in gold right now. Lasbra looks like he can disengage as well. It's so many people almost dead, and now finally dead on the side of Renegades, but Vin stays out alive. Jake gets rid of Panda Cat, and that, again, Renegades have been doing one thing and one thing well. That might just be enough on its own to be able to thwart this, but Sam is not done. He wants more. The stun not in time from Vin, so that's going to be getting away with murder for the jungler from Ghost.
Jake trying to trade out his life and nearly did so, but Good goodness, it's finally a deicide. We haven't had one of those in like 35 minutes. But Solar Patrol's up in about 5 seconds. It won't stop Sam from getting this right side Phoenix. This is dead 100%. And with SOT's TP in, they've got 30 seconds to do what they please with. I think this should just be maybe another Phoenix, but looks like Ghost might be trying to just end here. I don't think they can, I really don't.
It. Yeah, well, they're going to jump over, like you said, to right. They have a wave coming in, and they're going to hold on to that one. But Sam's already half health. Solar Patrol now going to use the ult just to disrupt it so you can't get that damage down. And he is putting all of his effort on to Sam. Whether or not he gets the kill, he doesn't really care. The Phoenix goes down. They find themselves at, well, a loss here if you're the Renegades. But maybe a win since the Titan doesn't go down. They forced the hovering death as well, so a small amount of time that they're not going to have that available. Bear is back. Lasber's about to be back. Vin shortly thereafter. It's going to be hard, but they still stay alive.
Man, Gore, you've kind of gotten the short end of the stick here for real long ones, haven't you? You had the 73-minute absolute banger a couple weeks ago in SCC. Here, 58 minutes for game number 1 of this set. These games are draining, man, to play in. They really are, especially if you're having to deal with, let's say you're Barracuda, just staring at a Cthulhu Wall game. Fire does go Ghost Gaming's way. Barra has only looked at a gigantic Cthulhu since minute 23. It's just been 40 minutes of looking at a gigantic Fino case, running him down. Panda Cat has only dealt with multiple Ratatosker dives and Kuzenbo and all that kind of stuff for what feels like almost an hour. These are tough games to really mentally stay locked in for, and then be ready to play another one guaranteed. So winning this one I do think is pretty important, because winning 2 in a row after this will be hard.
This is one of those moments, very convenient timing. I had asked Zayadin earlier, one of the guy that kind of behind all of the stats. I get to put numbers together, but he's the one that actually does all of the stuff that gets them. And I was looking for Season 7's win. I'll get you your longest game. I'll get back to you on that one because I don't quite have it yet. But I do have the longest game that has occurred in the SPL, and it was way back in Season 3, a 77.5-minute game between Enemy and Luminosity. So not
that was
quite
that was
at
the Tom
that level
Clancy
yet.
game, wasn't it? I
believe so, yeah.
I want to say it was. If that was like spring split, it would have been right around that time. So yeah, I think I remember that game.
We'll have to see if Renegades can hold on for another 20 minutes and try to break a record here. I don't know if I'm leaning with them. Fire Minions there on right lane, looking to get pushed through by Sam. Left lane looking to get caught up around this Phoenix. Now Sam, though, maybe in a bad position. Those Fire Minions going to get caught up here, looking at SOT. So he's going to be able to lock him down. Crashing in comes Lasber. They're looking for Twig, but Ghost are looking for the end. They're going to go in and try to find it. Twig goes down in the process. Sam loses his life as well. It looks like a double kill for Venenu, and now Finoke looking to get melted. The Titan at a little under half HP, but that's a full-on deicide triple kill for Venenu, and now the Renegades looking to run it right down mid, right through that Phoenix, and right to the win.
Man, I know I just said these games are mentally draining, but we didn't have to end it right here, right now. Ghosts just show zero patience around that Titan. They have Fire Minions walking up both side lanes. Why are we worried about all-inning that Titan right now? We can just easily siege mid-Phoenix and whittle them down. I just don't like that call at all from Ghost.
I'm nervous here. Yeah, they send back Lasber. I think Renegades are feeling it too. I call it as over. Those Fire Minions didn't quite want to let him rest it, but it is absolutely done here. Still, what, over 30 seconds before anybody from Ghost comes through. Fire Minions, they get close, but they don't get it done. Renegades, kind of surprising everyone, but still, 61 minutes in, they find themselves a win, and Ghost now have to win 2 in a row, which you already highlighted. It's not going to be easy to do.
It won't be. Like I said, I just really don't understand that call from Ghost. You've got plenty of time in that instance. You had just gotten EFG. You only have 1 Phoenix to siege. You've got Sam wrapping around the right-hand side. He gets handled by Solar Patrol, so you've got a true 4-on-4 there. I just don't like the call to all-in the Titan when you don't need to. Get mid-Phoenix and then all-in Titan, and I think they probably win in that instance. It's just 3-4K damage that they're short. That's a lot of protections that you get from even just one structure as the Titan. Just don't like that call at all from Ghost, where they play so patiently, wait around, and then they just end up going, all right, we're winning or losing right here. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Well, it seems like a week off did well for the Renegades, even though the week ended up not being the best week for them. It's definitely paid off here in game number 1. We'll have to see if they can continue this in game number 2. But before we get to that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the SPL, everybody. What was supposed to be a weekend of stops has started out the exact opposite way. A 60-minute barn burner where Renegades come out on top over Ghost. Could not have predicted that would be the way that this one would have gone. And Myth, we talked about in Picks and Mans, we talked about it the whole time off camera, that Renegades thought to ban that Hebo over the Persephone, and I think they might have been right.
You don't think you know. I mean, we can go ahead and say, sure, Twig did plenty of damage. She was, what, second highest damage in the lobby? But this man was struggling to find ultimates across the board. He kept going for these long-range, 5-man ultimates, and he just kept sacrificing that cooldown. At some point, I think even you just said, Twig, just go for one, at least. Just get at least one guy. And he just kept going for the far shots, man. And he got very little value out of it. And his passive really wasn't utilized that well that game. It was just a lot of struggling from Twig in this match. I think they were absolutely right to ban the Hebo.
Yeah, and meanwhile, on the other side, I think Renegades really showed why their pick ban phase was strong. Venenu, I think, got a lot of value out of these Morrigan ultimates, turning into Lasbra and trying to make sure they had these double rats for these engages. A couple times turned to the Cthulhu, I don't think those are quite as good, but when they had that double through the Cosmos, that double rat ultimate, that was when they really were struggling to answer it. Barracuda, I think, had a great game. He deserved all that attention Final K gave him on that Cupid as well, but Lasbra really showed up for them here in this game, Mifflin. I think this rat was just giving them too many problems.
Lazar was absolutely dominating the back line, the front line. Wherever Lazar decided to be, he was winning the fight. But if we're going to talk about junglers, I have to do it. I know he lost, but Sam for Soccer 2 did more than you can expect from literally anyone ever in any role at any point in any esport. 20, 11, and 10, he single-handedly kept them in team fights. He has more kills than his entire team put together. I mean, What more do you want from this guy? I mean, I guess you could say maybe a pentakill to win us the game, but I don't think you could realistically ask for more from Sanford Soccer.
No. You really can't, and this is where you can take a look at these numbers and kind of see what we're talking about, right? I mean, in a 60-minute game, your Persephone only being about 2K above your Thanatos, I mean, that is pretty wild in all things. I mean, she has so many opportunities to do damage that I think you would have expected more, and expected to come a little bit more efficiently from him here in this game, too. And I think if we're going to give Twig a hard time, then I think we need to bring the hammer down a little bit onto Mike as well. He struggled, for my money, on this Fafnir. I'm not entirely sure why they picked it throughout this game. There was never a moment where I said, okay, uniquely Fafnir does this for them. I don't know, Miff. I don't know where you come down on it, but I think Mike left a lot to be desired as well.
It's just not the traditional Mike playstyle that we expect to see him, that early game aggression. He got blown out in the early game. I think he started off the match 1 and 3, and he really struggled to find his footing at any point. I think that I would have much preferred him to see him play just a warrior, any of them, a different guardian, anything that could facilitate that aggressive playstyle that we were seeing from Sam in the early game, because even in the 3v3, we saw it very often. Sam would go in, Fafnir would try and follow up, and then get immediately blown up. His dragon transformation was very hard to utilize against the enemy team composition. I think I would have much preferred him to see on just about any other pick.
Just didn't quite work for Ghost there. I think despite some very impressive efforts coming out from Sam, from Fine, and even Pandacat, who had a lot of attention on him, it was not enough for them in that first game. So let's see in the picks and bans for game number 2 if they can find a way to turn things around. And I'm really interested to see how Renegades go about their 3 bans here again. Do they let that Persephone through again and make Twig show them that he can have a slightly better performance on it than what we saw in game 1? Twig has looked great lately. I think his Hebo has looked excellent. He's looked like a good mid laner, but I just don't know if that was the best that we could see from him in that first game. So this will be their chance to show us what they can do in game 2.
Yeah, I expect Renegades are likely going to go back to that Hebo ban. I mean, it worked out just fine for them. You made the very apt point that Twig really wasn't even doing impressive damage considering how long that game went on. I think Ghost might even have to make the decision to just go ahead and bypass Persephone themselves, which would be a very hard decision to make, knowing that Renegades are likely going to take it for themselves if that's the case. But Twig looks good on Merlin. He looks good on Raijin. He looks good on Hebo. I can't say the same thing about Persephone.
Wasn't there, but we certainly know he's stronger than that game 1 performance. Look at this Kuthinbo ban. We didn't quite give Solar Troll much time because there was so much going on in that 60-minute game, but he had an excellent game too. You saw him in that last push. He was the one that kept Sam for Soccer occupied while Ven and Lasper came back in with their kinks with the Morrigan ultimate and with the Ratatosker ultimate as well. So he certainly was impactful in this Kuthinbo. And really, I think that you might be able to argue that these are all kind of bans towards that frontline presence, right? Towards trying to limit, what SOT and what Awesome Jake can do here with those bans. So I like this from Ghost. They're heading towards that front line in particular.
Yeah, that Thor ban is just SOT in my mind. They're definitely trying to target him out, and it seems like Twig's going to try and reprise that performance of Persephone. It's not surprising. You can't just address the individual value that Twig is bringing on the pick. You have to also consider that if he doesn't take it, you know Ven's going to take it, and he's going to just be playing one of the best, if not the best, mid laner in the game. So Ghosts kind of are forced to pick it for themselves there, but we're going to see likely the exact same first 2 picks out of Renegades this time around again. Sobek might be the second pick just because, oh, no, it's banned this time around. I think we might be looking at Yamoja, also banned. Nemesis, there we go.
Able to find one that wasn't banned. Certainly a strong one here in this Nimbus. We'll see if that's what Lasmer wants to go. But I don't think we've addressed also that Ghost, really, and there Nemesis is, at least being hovered, that Ghost did have, I think, 2 chances to end this game, maybe even more throughout its runtime, right? Remember the time when we saw Lasbra, and not Lasbra, but Fino K alongside Sam for Soccer near that right side Phoenix, but it looked like Twig was elsewhere on the map, took a back or something like that. He wasn't with them, and maybe that changes the way that push ends up going. The end push could obviously have favored Ghost, and they went about it more slowly. I don't think they have to make that many adjustments to it since they were close to being able to close those games out a couple times.
I mean, even at the 42-minute mark, we saw that they had 3 stacked Ghosts, that is, on the enemy mid-Phoenix. The only one left alive was Barracuda, but instead we saw Sam for Soccer prioritize going for the kill instead of just targeting out the Phoenix itself. That would have been a huge determining factor on that next Fire Giant and could have expedited that phase of the game a little bit as well. I think you're right to point out that Ghosts don't have to really change that much, but even saying that, they already have. Now, Hunbots and King Arthur picked up. King Arthur's a phenomenal lane bully. He's going to bring a lot of pressure into the late game. It's going to be very hard to deal with that CC. It's going to be a very good tool to just make sure that Nemesis is boxed out. And Hunbots with that teamfight ultimate, if he's not burning beads, you know Persephone should at least be burning them himself. So there's so many ways now that Ghost can engage these fights, not only from a range, but also just have Hunbots blink in, be that beads burner. They've got a lot of tools to set up for their team.
And I'm not trying to say with this next point that this cannot work from Ghost, but doesn't it look like they're changing the things that worked best from their previous draft and keeping the parts that had the most room for improvement? Again, not saying they can't be the strategy, but just maybe a little bit curious where they're electing to make their changes here in this composition. So it is the Achilles, the Nemesis, and the Cupid here so far. And Renegades have some aggressive, great team fighting picks here with these 3 that Ghost are going to have to make sure that they're being careful of. Meanwhile, Ghost do have pretty decent team fight of their own between this Persephone and this Unbots. So I'm excited for the team fighting stage as Renegades ban away the Freya and the Heimdall, taking a shot at Panda. Meanwhile, Ghost ban away the Amir from Jake.
It's interesting to see that Freya ban come through. We didn't see her picked or banned in the last game. I think they decided to go for that, knowing that with this Achilles likely going to the Soul Lane, it's going to make Ghost a little bit more hesitant towards picking that Cthulhu for themselves. That counter matchup is so strong. You've already got the benefit of having a Nemesis on your team, just to take away a little bit of that mitigations that Cthulhu gets. So I think that it's very likely that we just don't see that god picked up here, which is something that we don't see very often. That's the meta that's starting to develop in Phase 2. These professional players have really decided and learned how to play around that pick.
Oh, and very interesting. Jake is going to pick up the Fafnir that I think struggled in Mike's hands back in Game 1. So maybe a little bit of Renegade trying to show him how it could work. But it also has excellent synergy with their comp, right? Nemesis and Cupid both could greatly benefit from that Coerce landing on them and getting them an attack speed buff. They don't have their mid laner pick too, so they may be leaning towards double physical, but they're a physical heavy comp as is. They could definitely use some magical damage. And this is why I was curious about the Freya ban. She's not even the mage ADC I'm the most worried about. I think right now Olaron is the strongest mage ADC.
I mean, you can't argue against Sanctified Field. He changes your literal time. You're getting knocked up higher, you're staying in the air longer, you're moving slower, your auto attacks move slower. It is the best no-play zone ultimate in the game, and he also brings the additional benefit of just shredding objectives, towers, fire giants, enemy gods. He's the only magical hunter that can crit in the game. He's got a little bit of out-of-combat healing that he can use to help out his team around these fire giant dances. It blows my mind that Olaron makes it this far into the draft phase.
Poor Dave, he's working on Paladins for us today, which means he's not here for a Hera getting locked in for Renegades. This is a pick that Ben likes to play a lot, and I think it fits his play style a lot too. This Arcus gives him the ability to be really impactful in the team fights without having to get right into the thick of it. Ben sometimes likes to hang around those edges of them and not get too involved, so I think this really works for him. But now that you're getting to see all 10 picks here, Myth, which way are you leaning? No way that Renegades 2-0 is Ghost here, right?
I mean, if I'm a betting man, I'm definitely going Ghost, but I like Renegades' draft. This Hera pick in particular is a little bit of a question mark for me. She's just so largely immobile, having to deal with gods like King Arthur is going to be able to sit on you incredibly easily. If she gets caught in a Sanctified Field, she's stuck in a Sanctified Field. Persephone ults you from a range, sure, drop Argus. He's only going to protect you for 5 seconds while Olaron wails on it. I think that's a very volatile pick that they've taken for themselves. But all in all, I think Ghost came out ahead on the draft.
Ghost are in a great spot. The Ola run strong. The Horus give them some early game potential. And back to the Persephone for Twig to give us another crack at it and show us he can pilot it to success. Game number 2 here between Ghost and Renegades. Could we have the 2-0?
Well, whether you're Mifflin or Danny Phantom, you're going Ghost this time around, at least from what I heard there on the desk. And I feel like, Agra, at least one thing stood out to me that helps support that, and that was when that Fafnir got locked in. I saw a big, fat 20% win rate next to his name. So maybe not the most successful run for the Dragon over there.
I agree with what Finch and Mifflin were saying on the desk. Mike did not have his usual impact on this pick. We'll have to see if he's able to do a little bit better on the Horus. Certainly a pick that can snowball games pretty effectively. And I think that's kind of the trend here for Ghost's draft, is that they snowball very, very well. They've got great fight potential that once they start grouping up is only going to get better.
We'll have to see. Well, they're already starting it off early. I was going to try to start some different segue, but Mike already getting bullied a little bit, not bruised too badly this time around. So he gets pressured off of that purple buff, and it's not going to go either way for the Renegades or for Ghost. So overall, you're just watching two supports duke it out in the back line as their carries farm up. Of course, if you ask anyone, that's typically how it goes over here in the duo lane. We'll have to see if that aggression pays off for Renegades, because it feels like they want to keep it up.
Seems like Renegades have the better of the push. I don't know if we've seen what ability Mike has leveled quite yet. I don't think we've seen him use an ability up until this point. I imagine it's the 1, which is better if you can do your purple then walk to lane, but worse in this situation where your 2 is definitely more kill potential. 1 isn't bad for kill potential either. That's slow after the knockup can be pretty annoying to deal with.
We'll have to see. Lasbra coming over here was a very early gank last time, but it's the solo laners right now. Fine, okay. Very low. Same thing for Solo or Troll. They'll be perfectly fine, as is, and for now. It's Lasbra that I want to keep my eye on, as he was the one that was maybe kind of piloting that early game, although easier to do on Ratatoskr than it is to do here on Nemesis. So it won't be too surprising if he just falls back and farms as well, because we've seen a lot of the top junglers do that. Which opens up the conversation then for Sam Hunbats. We get to see him every now and then as he's come through here after that nerf to his ultimate, but still level 5 feels like a big benchmark for him.
Huge benchmark. I mean, the kill potential for Hunbats pre-5 is if you overstep and use your mobility when you probably shouldn't. That's kind of the only way he kills you effectively. Post-5, all frontliners that don't have beads are on notice. Any character who doesn't have beads is immediately on notice. And I think we're going to see a lot more Hunbats post the buff that we'll have in this next patch coming out next week. But for now, it's really playing around that ultimate cooldown, probably building a good amount of CDR, not a ton of healing on the other side. I mean, Achilles and Cupid healing can get in your way a little bit, but wouldn't be surprised to see Sam prioritize something like a Jotun's Wrath really early on in the build so that he can get as much CDR as possible so he can utilize that Fear No Evil.
Well, hey, we're trying to get you back into game as fast as possible, but to do so, we're actually going to have to go to a quick break, then we'll be back with game number 2 right after this. Well, I'm impatient, so we're in here 2 minutes earlier than that timer dictated, at least the one on my screen. And, well, as you could see, at least Game 1 was so hot, still having to put out some residual fires after that one. It seems like Ghost maybe tasked with doing the same, because we were talking a little bit before all of that started about this aggression in the duo lane, specifically around Jake, and more or less what we can expect to see from the junglers. It opens up a lot of conversation for Ghost in this draft. Right now it's Lasbra hanging out just around the corner. Same thing for Sam. Both of them in the jungle. Seems like Lasbra wants more. They're not going to get aggressive this time.
Nemesis pre-5 gank, also not super scary. The slows can be pretty annoying, but not necessarily your huge sort of Ratatosker damage and CC setup that we saw from him in game number 1. Good initiation there by Mike. Found the beads from Barracuda, but Panicat loses his beads because of Jake's horrific emblem. So now both hunters in a bit of a vulnerable state.
Good dash from Barra. It was a beautiful double knockup. You don't get to find those too often when you're Horus, just because of how close range your knockup is. So good on PBM to be able to find lockdown like that for his team, and I think even better for Panicat following it up. Again, maybe no kills as of yet, but it opens up that conversation to showcase what they have in retaliation to the Renegades and what they can do to fight back. As this does feel like so much changes at level 5 here. I honestly would be surprised if any of these teams put that much effort into anything pre-level 5, just because you've already highlighted Nemesis, Hunbat's ult, looking towards the duo lane, the 2 big ult, Sanctified Fields has to be looked at that point, but Barra, you cannot glance over what he was able to do with Fields of Love last game. Hera all of a sudden gets Argus, which most people argue is the actual god. Hera just happens to be the one alongside him. I mean, there's so much that becomes available when these ultimates are online.
Huge for both teams, for sure. I agree with your assessment, though, that Renegades are probably a little bit more ultimate dependent just because of Hera in particular. She just gains so much of that strength from having Argus available. It's one of the reasons why I'm a little surprised we see Ven go with the same start, because this means he's not going cooldown boots, which means that he will have less cooldown early, therefore less Arguses early on. Probably could see him go into something like a Chronos Pendant a little bit later on. I just think that you basically want Argus up as often as possible. Hera, one of the only gods that I would pretty consistently build Chronos Pendant on.
We'll see what he does throughout this. Again, it looks like him as well as Barra are starting pretty much the exact same way. And with Barra playing the same god, not too surprising there. We'll have to see if Hera, whether this pays off or not. That little bit of extra power early on might not make a big difference. We'll have to see if Venenu makes anything big happen over in the mid lane for them. As I'm still waiting for that second shoe to drop, right? I mean, I see Blink online for Sam with a Fear No Evil. Maybe a little bit of pressure that can come out there. The aggression has been present, even more so right now hammer in the duo lane. Good sanctified fields there. They're not going to be able to get rid of anybody. I think even better reaction time from Jake to just jump away.
Huge by Jake. It was really the hammer. They were trying to catch Barracuda because his beads were up in like 3 seconds. And it's pretty easy to time that because Panicat lost his beads 10 seconds later. So it's really easy to get an exact timer on that. They were trying to CC chain Barracuda. If Barra gets hit by that fracture, he's dead because it's so easy to interrupt that dash whenever it's slowed down by Sanctified Field. But the hammer from Jake prevented that dash from connecting with Barracuda, which would have been a definite first blood for Ghost. So nicely done.
Well, Lasbra once again showing face on this side of the map, just outside the solo lane. There's a ward covering one entrance, and a Sam, well, actually covering the same entrance. Now they're going to be caught out, and it looks like Lasbra's going to go ahead and call that, but there aren't any wards that are covering Sam, so he's going to look to get aggressive here. No blink necessary. Fear No Evil down at the bottom, but SOT gets into the ult and gets the disengage. He's going to be able to stay alive through that one. Lasbra comes back over. Not going to be able to find any retaliation kills, or retribution kills, I guess is even better, since it's Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance here. But at the end of the day, he's going to be able to help stave off any aggression onto Solo or Troll.
Man, a little bit early there from Sam on the drop of Fear No Evil, but I think that they still get pretty unlucky on that right-hand side. The way Fear No Evil works is it's actually pulsing out damage and fear from the totem. And there's a travel time for those pulses. Now, it's fast enough that if you don't have any purification beads, it's always going to hit you. But in that instance, I'm pretty sure the reason that Solar Troll was able to use Fatal Strike to get away was because it was in between individual ticks of Fear No Evil that lets him get away. And that's preventable if Sam is a little bit more patient with Fear No Evil, puts a little bit closer to his drop spot, you know, waits until he's actually coming down, but still feel like Ghost did get at least a little bit unlucky with that timing.
Yeah, more than anything, yeah. I would, maybe SOT's really lucky that week off really paid off. Maybe he went to a spa and just, I don't know, relaxed to the point where things like that aren't just going to continue going his way. Or Sam is just cursed at this point and is going to be feeling it. We'll have to see throughout the rest of the game, because that's a long cooldown to eat for a Hunbats before he can get anything like a Jotun's Wrath, if he even goes for something like a Jotun's Wrath. And so we'll have to wait a little while before we see another one of those. The question then comes down to where else you can get aggressive, because right now it feels like Jake, once again, trying to be the driving force for the Renegades.
Good dash in by PBM, but Argus right there in order to put some pressure on Twig right away.
And they get some damage, but not enough. Argus still going at it as he tries to dive this tier 2. Won't be able to find Twig, so that Persephone remains alive. It's going to be a lot of ults used on both sides. No first blood just yet. Barra still wants more. No Fields of Love, but PBM locked down. The damage isn't going to be enough, but Jake transforms, looks to go in. Fear No Evil going to be used just to peel off Lasbra. Jake can't go in because of that as well. It slows down the Renegades once again, but no mana there for Sam. No health for PBM or Twig. That should be no more from Ghost Gaming, even though Renegades really want blood.
I think that was intentional for everyone to take PBM's ultimate, but maybe they felt like they could have gotten a little bit more damage off. Mike was certainly using it to escape for himself, but I wonder if Sam really wanted to go on that trip with him. Maybe wanted to stick around even though he was a little bit low on mana and use those auto attacks. Probably the wiser call for him to hop avoid the Horus Express right out of that fight. So far, it's been pretty close again between these two teams. Nice and scrappy early on, which is, I think, the way that both these teams operate best.
And now it's, well, remaining scrappy. Both junglers, well, you called it, they're back over here in the solo lane. SOT a little low, and that's going to be PBM making a big rotation over here. Vin, Jake in the jungle. But it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get here in time for anything big or catastrophic for Ghost Gaming. In fact, they're going to go ahead and fall back with the rest of the Renegades, who are going to go ahead and call that one quits in solo lane. And, I mean, just slowing down. I'm actually surprised, even though we've seen all of these skirmishes, there hasn't been a first blood.
Been a couple close calls, but no dice for either team quite yet. A good red buff invade in response by Renegades. Once they see that many members of Ghost on the right-hand side, they know it's a pretty easy window to just steal that red buff away, try and keep Captain Twig from being a real factor in that mid lane.
Man, if that hammer, it's not an axe this time around, hits, maybe there's something going on over there in duo, but Panda Cat still live to see another day. Same thing potentially going on here in the jungle. Fine, okay, and SOT forever in a boxing match. Sam, once again, patient on his engage, and so they slow that one down. But now we're going back. I guess we can look towards the itemization one more time. It's the Divine Ruin that's come through this time instead of a Doom Orb for Vin. And maybe following a similar path, maybe going to have to make sure it pays its weight in gold here as he gets aggressed on by Sam. That Fear No Evil comes down. Argus looking to try and beat down that Hunbats, but it's not going to be enough for either side. Once again, aggro, and we walk away without a first blood.
And once again, Captain Twig's ultimate not perfect. I mean, no beads there for Ven. They were coming up in less than 5 seconds. Maybe Twig was expecting Ven to beads and then backstep a little bit, but I think it's a lot easier to just trust that the CC's going to be there, and if it's off because of something like a beads and a backstep, then you go, oh, no, he didn't have beads, and that's fine. If that ultimate connects, they kill Ven there, no doubt in my mind. That would have been first blood.
Well, this is early. Gold Fury started up using that Fafnir ultimate to its full potential, something we didn't get to see quite so often. I think we only really got to mention it once in the last game, even though it was 60 minutes of gameplay. So a real early Gold Fury here for Renegades. It's going to help give them a slight edge over Ghost, especially since they haven't been losing any lives just yet. Same thing here. This PBM looked like he might have been able to lock down Vin, but it's always a looks like, might be able to, could possibly, but never has it happened so far in 12 minutes, which again is actually kind of blowing my mind. It feels like the action is constantly going, just no one is getting to the point where they finally tip over the edge.
Hasn't been there quite yet, but Renegades have been able to earn themselves a slight lead, about 1,000 gold through the first 12 minutes. It's not enough to do anything with, but maybe you get a couple extra wards out, which can lead to some extra invades, set up a play, try and catch someone who doesn't have beads, that sort of thing is really what you're looking for now if you're Renegades.
I keep seeing these scary positions whenever you're playing against a Hunbats, especially with the view we have. I can just be like, man, I don't know if you want to run through there. That's a very bad spot to be as Sam decides you are going to die. You will. But so far, again, very, very slow on the trigger. Renegades snuck that Gold Fury. Now they're looking to try and sneak themselves a Pyromancer. SOT's keeping FineOK occupied, so no one's going to be able to rotate in and see it. It might be too late before anybody notices. That's a second objective that they've just been able to come in, scoop up, and walk away from.
Love the way the Renegades are playing. They're just being proactive again. That's really when Renegades start to struggle, it's when they let the game just happen around them and don't really shape its direction themselves. They play reactively instead of proactively. And in this game, Renegades have done a very good job of being proactive so far. Even whenever there isn't a whole lot of grouping up, like Solar Troll invaded FineOK's last blue buff all by himself and just happened to win that one-on-one. Those sorts of more aggressive plays are what are going to lead to Renegades winning more sets. And so far, they've looked very good in this one. They're up 2,000 gold now, and they were up 1,000 gold just a minute ago because of proactivity around that Pyromancer. As soon as that Gold Fury spawns, that's where I want Renegades to be. See if you can keep getting pressure on the blue buff or keep getting pressure on the red buff. That's the path to success here for the Renegades.
Might have been able to call it for one game with SOT coming back, but seeing it 2 games in a row is interesting. I mean, looking up, it still kind of is tripping me up when I see Renegades up 1-0. I almost want to go, oh no, we'll fix it in a second, it's going to change, but those numbers are right, and my brain just wants to correct them. And it's a weird instance to be in for Ghost here, as they get tripped up. Maybe normalizing, if you're having a bad week or a bad couple of weeks as a player, take a break, even if it does require losing a couple of games. It's a long, long phase. We're almost halfway through, I think, right after this week. And so, maybe it's worth the risk of losing some games just to be able to find a reset, especially if it's going to pull you into the area that Renegades are in right now. Still no first blood, but they're still looking for it, still playing, as you put it, proactively, and finding their presence over here. 1.5 minutes until an Oni Fury spawns up. And that's enough to start getting not only aggressive over, but that's where you want to see your fights.
Lasbra in some trouble now. That Grasp of Death is going to land, force the beads right away, but it's Sam in trouble.
That's going to be the Fear No Evil trying to peel, but once again, not enough to lock down SOT. Now Twig in a bad spot, so you get the first blood for Renegades. Can you keep it up here as you get taken up into the sky? If you're Jake, that's going to be the execute, but Finn finds the kill right beforehand. SOT just putting a little bit of extra damage into the backline. Jake loses his life for it all, but a 3-for-1, you'll take that, and you're going to turn it into more here. Chase down FineOK, get rid of him, force the ult from PBM just as a retreat. And now Renegades leading 4-1, 4,000 gold, 1 game up in the set. All things that, honestly, if you go back and look at that screen from the waiting room where our predictions are, we're all about to hold an L.
Looks like it if things keep up right now for the Renegades. And it's just little wins like that, getting the auto attack steal on the speed buff that 50-50s, but just kind of fill you up with confidence that things are going your way. It's just kind of your day on the battlefield. And sometimes I think these sorts of days happen to Ghost where they just seem a little bit more sporadic. They don't look as locked in. And I don't know if it's anything really tangible. It's much easier to tell from internally, we didn't get a good week of practicing, or we didn't take as much time on picks and bans, things like that. It's not that I think they disrespect their opponents in any way. It's just they have these days where they kind of show up and they just don't look as clean. And a lot of that credit goes to the Renegades. I'm not trying to take credit away from them. They are forcing Ghost into making mistakes, but sometimes Ghost just looks like this well-oiled machine that can't be stopped. You know, an inevitable doom that is just coming onto you on the battlefield. And then other games, they just look a little bit frazzled. And I feel like we're looking at a little bit of the latter here. That team fight was just so spread out and so slow to start for Ghost, and that's a little bit uncharacteristic for them.
No, I'm wondering, yesterday I remember seeing a tweet come down from FineOK where he had just said he'd played way too much Smite over the past 2 days, so he was taking a little bit of a break before playing today. I'm wondering if maybe that's a little bit of it, maybe a little bit too much commitment to the game. The practice could burn you down. We'll have to see if he's able to make a big comeback throughout the duration of this. But Oni Fury, as you had called it, picked up there for the Renegades, being able to get on it, not quite as it respawned, but pretty shortly thereafter. And now, Tier 1 tower on top of it. I mean, the map state is definitely falling in their favor, and fast.
They're just grouping up and forcing Renegades to respond, or Ghost to respond, and they aren't responding well. Panda Cat already dead.
I mean, yeah, being able to burn that down, ignoring Sanctified Fields and the Fear No Evil, forces Bear's beats. Can they force anything else out of it? It's been a 1-for-0. There's the Fields of Love. It's not going to be able to find any lockdown, but it does force Ghost to take an awkward positioning. Fine, okay, good stun from Jake, helping save Barracuda a little bit longer, but it's not going to save his life forever. Fine, okay, once Blood in is chasing it down, finds that kill. Vin just off the side, taken down as well. So Renegades, they get a lot of pressure. They get that Oni Fury, they get a tower, but maybe get a little too much when they decide to jump into that Tier 2.
This right side Tier 2 is in serious danger. I mean, Solar Patrol has an Oni wave with him. No teleport available for FineOK. He's still on this left-hand side. It's only Mike here trying to defend, and he's not going to be able to stop Solar Patrol from grabbing more global gold for the Renegades.
I mean, you lose one, win the other. I guess at the end of the day, it's a worthwhile trade. I mean, look at the last Tier 2s. They're both half health. The only thing you can say for Ghost in terms of tower pressure right now is that the two half-health towers are Tier 1s. Over there on the side of the Renegades. Jake, the fact that he's still alive, I expected it to be dead. I was going to gloss over it. Right now, he's still dancing around. In fact, Lasbra is able to turn around this fight, gets rid of Twig. Passive's going to be able to play its role this time around, once again for the mid laner there on Ghost. So he does still eliminate Jake, but it takes forever to do so. And the fact that you're able to lose a tier tower in the process, it's starting to shake up the confidence. I came into this set for Ghost and maybe reinvigorating the Renegades. I mean, Jake has to be laughing in moments like that. You're living so long, you get the respawn, you even help turn a kill around. You're feeling great after moments like that.
All of the Renegades should be feeling great. A 6K lead at 19 minutes. You've got massive experience leads in every single role except for support. Jake, the only one without a lead. He's actually down in XP yet again. This is kind of the same story as game number 1, where Mike's getting picked a decent amount, though he's not in this game. 0-0 and 2 was still ahead in farm. That's been a spot where Jake needs to find a way to catch up a little bit better, is in that farm category. But his impact has been way, way better in this game in the early stages. He's had a fantastic game so far in this Fafnir.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, that 20% win rate made me a little timid about it. It's always worrisome when you see someone locked in. Pele, I believe, is in that same area. Ymir, both down there. Both picks, all three of those picks that the Renegades really, really like, maybe explaining some of it as they come through. Fields of Love was used. Argus lasts forever, by the way. I mean, still going after he was dropped earlier as he's running around the map with Vin. They get that Pyromancer, and they keep turning this lead into even more. Something that you always see out of the top teams, you expect of Ghost when I say that sentence, but it's Renegades still in the driver's seat. The question at this point really is it going to take them 60 minutes to try and close this one out with this much of a lead early on?
Hope not if you're the Renegades, because you don't want to leave it to fate at 60 minutes, and a lot of times it does come down to those little things.
Well, Fields of Love, Sanctified Fields, two fields colliding in one. They save that tier 1 tower, and there's the grasp coming from Twig. It's not going to find the full lockdown. In fact, it might not even save his life here, trying to get away. One more hit, and that finds the kill. PBM goes deep. He's not going to be able to find too much. Now, unfortunately for FineOK, he was the one left all by himself in mid. And it wasn't really his choice. When PandaCat died, Twig died, there was only one person left to turn to. Sam back in base, PBM on the left side of the map. It smells like a free Fire Giant. Kills everything coming up Renegades. That win has reinvigorated this team into something else.
That's what I'm talking about with these long 60-minute games. I mean, you just get such a boost from being the one to actually get the dub, and it's just so draining, especially with the way that Ghost lost that game, to end up losing it in a play that really felt a little bit forced, didn't need to make that play at the time. Then you end up losing the game off of it. That feels so bad to be in that position that it's hard to be mentally ready to go for game number 2. And I think Renegades did the exact right thing. Come out of the game swinging right away. Try and make sure that Ghost is still upset with how game number 1 went, and just compound that with that making them upset about how game number 2 is going. And they've done that very well.
Well, they've got a 2-level lead in solo, a 2-level lead for the Hunters as well, or I guess the carries in this case, since PandaCat's over there on a mage. And a 2-level lead in mid, so everything experience-wise going their way, gold-wise still going their way. And that Fire Giant, even though it took a little longer than I think you would be comfortable with in most circumstances, they find themselves in a happy position as the Renegades to start pushing up mid, pushing up left, try to knock down these last tier 2s. 23 minutes, this is typically where you might see Ghost, again, killing off a Titan in some cases. Right now they're having to play it slow and defensive. Might not even be able to do anything about this Primal Fury. If all of these objectives keep going this way, Renegades aren't going to have much to worry about until it gets to the Phoenixes.
And even then, I don't think they have to worry about too much. They've got a much better Phoenix sieging comp than they did in game number 1, where they really struggled with that style in game number 1, just based on the compositions. Now you've got really good tools in order to burn these down. The Fafnir helps you siege pretty well. Nemesis is so good in her 1v1s in mid. I love it.
Oh. And they're just going in. I mean, Twig's already almost dead and into the backline. Lasbra gets his ult down. Finn finds the kill onto Sam. You lose Captain Twig in the process. Sanctified Fields looking to once again slow things down and equal the play-in field, but it's only going to do much. The Renegades burn through PandaCat, FineOK, as well as PBM, forced to run into the fight. And yeah, they're just walking it in. This Titan is going to be in trouble. What can these two tanks do right now? Knockups are going to be good. The focus is going to be on them. But it looks like it might be the Renegades. The kill's about to come through. FineOK still barely alive, but now taken down alongside him is going to be the Titan. Renegades 2-0 Ghost Gaming.
Unbelievable. And just like that, they make game 2 look really easy. 24 minutes, and they weren't in doubt at all. I think it's really based on how that game 1 finished. I think that's really what it comes down to. They got a big morale boost. Ghost took a big hit there. Like I said earlier on, I do think that Ghost has these kinds of days, and that's certainly concerning. If you're a fan of this team, that, you know, what happens if we get to Worlds and we just have one of those days on stage? That can be scary for you, but all the credit in the world deserves to go to Renegades. They hung on and won a very tough game 1, and they came out and just stomped them game 2.
I mean, you know, that game was nothing for half of it, if not a little bit longer. It was just such a stalemate. And then finally, out of nowhere, the Renegades come through and sweep it together. That was insane to watch, and I'm excited to hear about what the desk has to say about it, but we'll get to them right after this break.
I don't think they see it. Not live in a trailer. No need for flavors. 'Cause I'll be laughing when I'm Justin Bieber's neighbor. Always time to second guess, weighs heavy on my chest. But the dreams I have, they stay alive. 'Cause you know it's ride or die. I've been dreaming. Maybe I'm sleeping. Losing my teeth, maybe I'm flying for no reason. I've been dreaming what I believe in. will get there soon, that's more than just a feeling. Yeah, I've been dreaming. Watching the bands, working the weekend, thinking about how I remember all these feelings. Right in this moment, I'm making no man. Writing all this down, won't stop until I own it. Always start to second guess, weighs heavy on my chest. But the dreams I have, they stay alive, cause you know it's ride or die. I've been dreaming, maybe I'm sleeping, losing my teeth, baby, I'm flying for no reason. I've been dreaming, what I believe in. I will get there soon, that's more than just a feeling. Yeah, I've been dreaming. I've been dreaming, maybe I'm sleeping, losing my teeth, maybe I'm flying for no reason. I've been dreaming, what I believe in. I will get there soon, that's more than just a feeling. Yeah, I've been dreaming. I've been dreaming, maybe I'm sleeping, losing my teeth, maybe I'm flying for no reason. I've been dreaming, what I believe in. I will get there soon, that's more than just a feeling. Yeah, I've been dreaming. Yeah, I've been dreaming.
Welcome back to the SPL, and those 3 minutes were not enough time for me to come to grips with what we just saw. Renegades 2-0 Ghost, the gold standard for the league, handled after making the SOT change, benching them for a week, bringing them back in, and they look almost like a different team here, Myth. Now, I think that Ghost made a lot of mistakes there in Game 1. I don't blame you here, Myth, for the way that you reacted to this. Ghost made some mistakes in Game 1 for sure, but I don't think we can take anything away from Renegades here. They played lights out in Game 1 and even better in Game 2.
I mean, Renegades, that was a clinical win. It wasn't like Game 1 where it was 60 minutes in, Ghost throw, or weren't able to end the game a couple of times in a row. Renegades, for the first 14 minutes, didn't really make any proactive plays. Neither did Ghost. We didn't see the first kill until around the 15-minute mark. But still, Renegades had already established a 2,000 gold lead for themselves, and then immediately transitioned into a red buff invade and just completely open up the game from there. They're looking so good in Game 2, and I think it's off of a couple questionable plays from Twig. I mean, Panda Cat really got abused this game. I think both of them landed around 4 deaths that match. It just seems like Ghost didn't really recuperate very well from that 60-minute loss.
They didn't, and this is the beginning of that invade, as you mentioned. SOT finding the execute into Sam very early on. Twig used the ultimate just before that fight, I believe, to try and lock down Lasbra, but he avoided it, and that meant there was no help for that team fight there, too. And, you know, in Game 1, we gave Ghost a hard time about the Persephone pick there for Twig, about Mike struggling, but I don't think any of that mattered here in Game 2. This isn't a one-pick thing when you get walked over in 24 minutes. That's the whole team struggling to get together, and Renegades executing on every level, man. Vin looked good on the Hera. He looked good in the first game on the Morrigan. Lasbra looked good on the Rat. He looked good in Game 2. SOT looked excellent on the Achilles. I don't want to make this about anything other than how well Renegades played here in this set.
They looked incredibly good, and against all conventional Smite knowledge as well. If we evaluate them just off of last week's play, the week before, even the week before that, I mean, I've gone on record saying that I think Renegades is looking like potentially the weakest team in the league right now just because of their recent level of play. But they beat Ghost. they beat Ghost.
Yep.
Conventional Smite knowledge be damned.
and that means Ghost drop down to 7-3, and that's going to potentially put them a good deal behind where the rest of the top of the league are having to deal with those other 2 losses they might not even grab. So Ghost and Renegades, a game that we thought we thought we could push to the wayside for this Knights United one, which should be exciting, but instead it was the Ghost Renegades one that you had to make sure that you saw. The 60-minute pop-off game to start it off, and then the 24-minute one where they closed it out without any doubt. Got to make sure you're keeping this Renegades team on your radar because they're looking strong right now. But you don't have to take our word for it. We have Barracuda standing by for the interview.
That's right. I'm here with Bear. And Bear, I mean, most people came in thinking that this was going to be a 2-0, and I guess they were right, just not in the way anyone expected. So, I mean, was it what you ate this morning? Was it a workout? Did you have something to drink? What was it that just made this week and this set so much different?
Just a massive frontline diff, honestly. SMITE is so easy to play at a professional level when your frontline is just playing better than the enemy frontline. And I'm pretty sure me and PCAT played about the same in both games, like skill-wise and playmaking-wise, but my frontline just executed on pretty much all levels higher than their frontline did. I think their frontline was really uncoordinated and they were just reacting to our frontline, and it's so easy for me to play the game when that's happening.
I was going to say, you got to sit back and coast, at least for a lot of game one. It'd be like, oh, well, Barracuda's the last one left alive throughout the skirmish. He's happy with that one. And I have to, ask, you're talking about the front line. Part of that is the solo lane here. Did having SOT kind of sit off for 1 week, get that reset mentally, and then come back in really, really help for the team this week?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think SOT completely popped off, and him and Jake and Lass just working together as a trio is just so hard for enemy backliners to play into. And also, I think our drafting was just way better than theirs this set. Like, way better than theirs. I think we brought a lot of picks that people wouldn't think we'd be playing, and then we executed at a very high level. So it just feels great.
So you end up beating out Ghost this time around in a 2-0. But they're not the only difficult team that you have to face this week. And so I have to look towards the future just to know, you come in, find a 2-0 here, you're going up against SSG on Sunday. What's the team's thoughts and your thoughts going into that?
I think we just need to keep executing at a high level and keep just drafting well and playing well. Like, we know how well we can play, we know how we can make the top teams look against us, and we just need to keep doing that. And yeah, that's all we need to do. Just play good SMITE.
Well, hey man, if it keeps giving us games like that, I don't think anyone's going to be complaining. Even Ghost fans have to be happy with the way this one went because it was fun to watch. But hey, congratulations once again on your win. Rest for a little while on this one. That first game was a doozy. But thanks for your time, man, and congratulations once again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.